Hello everybody around the world, my name is SenseiSuplex and today we have the likes of the Project Aurora MMORPG community update and staff meeting. I hope you guys are ready for an epic sort of update for each and every single one of you guys so you know exactly what is happening in the Auroraverse. We have multiple individuals from the staff members to also individuals in the Discord chat who are listening on in. Now, if you are unaware, we are streaming this over on YouTube at SenseiSuplex as well as twitch.tv/sensei_suplex. So if you want to see the visual portion of this, then you're going to want to check that out on either one of those video streams. If you want to just hang out and get everything in real time, you're going to want to actually head over to the Discord and you'll be able to see all of this happening out live. Besides that, we have a lot of things to sort of accomplish for today, specifically on the Dungeon Masters and Lore Masters side, but we're going to try to accomplish everything we possibly can with all of the staff departments, including the art team, the homebrew team, the cartographer team, music composer team, video editor team, and more. Trying to get everybody for this. So, without further ado, let us go break my overlay, and let's go see what's going on. All right, so as you can see over in the chats, we have a bunch of the Dungeon Masters as well as the Project Aurora staff leads all here in attendance, ready to be able to help out when it comes to everything. So, oh, also, I should probably play this in the background so it's not just quiet. Come on. There we go. Thank you, Spotify. So, that being said, let's get started without further ado. All right. So a couple of announcements that we had for the likes of the, well, pretty much Project Aurora, is that first thing that we want to announce is Phase 1's finish date. Now, this is obviously not necessarily like a concrete date on, hey, this is when everything is going to happen and sucks to suck if it doesn't. It's more of like, hey, this is the projected date I can see in the future that we should have everything done by. Now, if anything happens, like, I don't know, the world explodes or whatever, something crazy goes down, then obviously we will push it back if we need to, so everything will be done when it is done. But we're going to be shooting for the likes of the finish line date being July 15th for Phase 1, where everything is finished, from the likes of all the Dungeon Masters having all their one-shots planned, to the likes of the Lore Masters are able to sort of make sure everything is in check and everything is correct and how it should be, to having all of the artists being able to design all the NPCs that we may need or anything like that, as well as having, or pretty much having the players picked out and ready to go. So that is the dates that we're going to be looking for, July 15th. Now, while that's sort of happening, if we'll have a little bit of like a 1 week or 2 week period where the Dungeon Masters and also the rest of the entire team can focus on promoting the project and all that sort of stuff, building up hype, building or generating all that sort of stuff, maybe even doing like character bios or whatever. We'll talk more about that with the video editor team when we get closer to that point. But stuff to basically be able to show it off on social media to get everybody's eyes onto Project Aurora. And that will be between the time of the 15th as well as the 25th. So the reason why is because I am planning on, or I think it would be a great idea to have the one-shots probably start, like the first dice is rolled on the 25th of July, and probably the last dice being rolled would be probably somewhere in between the 14th of August. Now, Dungeon Masters, as you guys know, we have a sort of 2 week period or 2 week span of the one shots going off. So that's why I'm saying, like, if we the one shot series, those 2 weeks, they're gonna start somewhere in between the 25th and then end somewhere around the 14th of August. Does that make sense with everybody? Or anybody need a little bit more clarification on that in chat or in the voice call with me? I always take silence as a yes, an undoubted yes. All right, so that being said, other stuff that we have is one-shot information. So this one is going to be a little bit more Definitely a little bit more loosey-goosey, but the way how we're going to be searching for the likes of players when it comes to the project and all that sort of stuff is going to be, well, as I mentioned before, pretty much at the beginning of the project, individuals who are working with staff, aka they are Project Aurora staff, whether they're a part of the cartographer team, the music composer team, whatever, doesn't matter. They will have the highest priority as players. Now, what I can see in the future, and this is again subject to change, but there will be a message posted among the staff announcements channel where the day of play and the times will be listed out for each one of the one-shots. Now, we already have the days and times listed out. We have them like written down right now in my notes that I'm sharing between me and Matt. But I mean, in case that they ever change for whatever reason, we haven't posted them just in case, right? But point is, there will be a message posted in the staff announcements where each of them or each of the one-shots will be listed, and staff members will vote for the games that they can play under based off of their availability and more, right? Afterwards, the DMs will have a brief meeting or discussion on the selection of players to make sure as many people among staff can play and no one person is playing twice. If there are spots available due to scheduling issues, which is almost inevitable, then those spots will be outsourced to the rest of the D&D community for them to have a chance to play. But at the end of the day, it's always, or staff is going to be 100% prioritized because, hey, if you guys have spent months and months on, you know, working on the project, I would hope that you would want to play in it, and I would hope to try to give you at least the opportunity, or the best opportunity to be able to, right? Now, on top of this, now I mentioned this a little bit before stream to the Dungeon Masters and more, but I will say this. These are, well, a couple events have changed slightly, but hey, what can you do? So, so besides this, Sensei will run a filler one-shot. Well, this is what I'm planning to do, but we'll see how this is going to change. But I was planning to run a filler one-shot to tie a couple of the lore and plot holes together, while also focusing on the pieces of Antima, being the city of, or the setting of the world that we're working on, but focusing on pieces of Antima that weren't necessarily explored in the one-shot series to give things more clarity, while also showing the amazing work of the lore masters off. However, this additional one-shot would be a little bit different. This would be restricted to players of my choice, as I'm going to be exclusively picking D&D content creators that I've met or any of my content creator friends. Here's why. Let me explain. I'm hoping to introduce them into Project Aurora by exposing their audience at least, or which will help at least get our name out there for the internet to actually know about and help us tremendously out in the future for Phase 2, Phase 3, and all of that good stuff. After all, we're going to need a bunch of players in the long run. And if no one knows who we are and no one signs up to play, then it will defeat the purpose. So having a couple of content creators, being able to collaborate with them, and also even have a couple friends amongst the project that I'll be able to join on in would be the best. Now, obviously, the one-shot will be tied into the main plot line of the one-shot series, but I'm probably going to schedule a quick meetup with the lore masters to have them help me personally construct this one-shot so we can get everything that we need right. And really just to be able to show off a lot of the world and like almost all the aspects as, you know, reasonably possible. So that being said, were there any questions about that before I go into the wacky change and all that? Oh man, am I even in the Discord call? God damn. I need like an okay. I need like a hello Sensei, I'm alive from anybody. Anybody, please. There we go. There we go. Thank you. Hey. Oh man. Hey, shut up. Get back in the basement. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so that's basically how that's gonna go. Now, as I mentioned before, we had I think 2 Dungeon Masters drop out of the project recently. Because of that, we left it left a couple of holes in the one-shot series. Now, I want to get the Dungeon Masters involved with this sort of quick little discussion on what we should probably do about it. But the question is, should we? So I already said I was going to run another sort of one shot, should it be that I just take over one of the individuals one shots where what they were going to run and just go about it that way? Still include the content creators as players and all that sort of stuff, but just run that individual's one shot to keep the flow of events going? Or should we make something up entirely, like I mentioned before, with the lore masters, yada yada yada? What do you guys think would probably be the best case and scenario, or the best plan of action for this? Because I'm not entirely sure, and I want to obviously get all the other dungeon masters involved with this decision, because based off of the one-shot series that we have right now.
Looks best, as you can have whatever kind of one shot you want to have. Well, at least that's my thoughts on it.
Also, I love how chat just now realized there wasn't any people talking in the Sensei on stream, but don't worry, I got it. So yeah, TLDR, basically what Core Brute was saying was we should really look into basically what impact that one shot has on the entire series. And then we should maybe go into not necessarily having to replace it and run the exact same thing. As long as it sort of gets the point across of what we were trying to accomplish, then maybe I can throw my own little spin or my own little twist on it and more. But it doesn't have to necessarily be just a sort of rehashing of the idea exactly. It just may need to get the major points across. Now, looking back at the one shot, make sure I got this right. It was relating to Micah's one shot. I think Micah wasn't able to make it to this meeting specifically, unless I am completely wrong. Let me make sure. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. So it would have to do heavily with that, but I think what I can maybe do is I can at least allude to the end of their one shot or not heavily, but in the sense of like maybe the group just sort of runs past that sort of same or similar area. Maybe if once I get talking with the lore masters, maybe they actually do really want to explore that or emphasize this part, and then hey, the one shot basically remains exactly as is. But I do want to have at least one point in the one shot somewhere where the players witness the events or the aftermath of what's going on, as well as sort of throwing our own little spin or twist on it, for sure. So anybody else have any suggestions or any sort of input they would want to throw out there for how we want to sort of go about with the one shot series based off of a huge piece missing? Any of the dungeon masters?
So hello, can you hear me?
Yep, there we go.
Okay, so refresh on the topic at hand. Since there are 2 dungeon masters that are no longer part of the project, we have 2 one shots or 2 spots that do not have basically a DM to run them. And so
not entirely
deliberation.
Not entirely with that. We were able to pick up Sarcastic Druid. They will be replacing one of the dungeon masters from what we mentioned before, but we still have that one spot that is missing.
Okay, which one spot is it, and where does it exist on the timeline?
It was Apra's one shot is what they're replacing, and where was it? So they didn't list out when their one shot was supposed to be. So we have pretty much a spot where we can open it up.
Isn't their one shot before mine and after, isn't it like at the end of the first week? We had this all
Where is it?
outlined.
Let me make sure.
We had it all outlined.
I think, oh wait, my notes, my old notes is what I'm looking at. I'm not looking at the most recent one. Let me go fix that. Where is this? So yeah, you are right. So it's right at the end of the first week, and then right before yours, Matt.
Okay.
Where is it? So yeah, that's when their one shot was originally sort of stated. So that was going to be looking at I believe a Monday. Yeah, I believe they were looking at Monday earlier in the day. Now, granted, we can always sort of move it around or whatever. Maybe put it even at or week 1 at the very, very end. That's always a possibility. But the point is, it would probably have to kind of be before your one shot. Now, granted, since we're not even using that individual's one shot anymore, because I never really came up with the idea. I don't believe, I could be wrong on that. Then we just kind of have full flexibility on where we should place Druid in this case and scenario. So they can go, it just mainly depends on what type of one-shot idea they would want to run. Oh, actually, no, I am stupid. No, I am big dumb. No, erase everything. Matt, Apple wasn't going to run their one-shot at the end of week 1 or at the beginning of week 2. They were going to be running their one-shot at the very, very end of week 2 everything. They were going to be the one shot that was going to be focusing on the wrapping up of events after my one shot. Do you remember that conversation?
Was it written down in a way that was because I see the original outline of that. Was that updated? Was that re-released? Was it in text?
Yeah,
I
I'm pretty
don't
sure.
think we should be held to remember conversations if it's not written down.
Yeah. I believe so, but I could be very well wrong, because a lot of things just kind of got thrown over at me, just over text, just randomly. And it was like, hey, I'm doing this, peace. And then I was like, okay, well, all right. Yeah, I believe so. So this was the sort of thing where, yeah, we asked the lore masters, like, hey, yo, so we basically need a couple of dungeon or lore masters to step up as dungeon masters. If you're interested, let me know. And then basically message me. We'll go through the sort of process again of having them answer the questions, and whoever we think would be the best fit for this sort of one-shot series, they're just going to be replacing that individual for the time. That was an announcement in the lore master sort of side. But Apra's, that was written down, I believe, or it was either written down or it was explained in the meeting prior. But hey,
Okay.
as you mentioned before,
So maybe let's get a new one out then.
Yeah.
I mean,
What?
I mean, the only one I see is the May 10th one from DM announcements.
Hold on. I was dealing with something stupid. Say that one more time, Matt.
May 10th, 2022 in the DM announcements channel. That's the only one I see.
So here, I will write that down. Let's get another formal announcement for that of this sort of series. So, number 1, updates the DM's calendar with new individuals. New times, and updated one-shot ideas. To make sure everything is up to date and good to go. Post it in the announcements or DM announcements, and post it or convey this to lore masters to make sure we're all good once we come up with the new ones. Lore Masters. Once we come up with the new ones, I would really need a dedicated note taker for this stuff. All right. So, that being said, let's go to the next part. So, so Matt, what were you saying overall when it came to the likes of, how do I explain this? So
the order of the one shots and how that fits in with sort of the outline that we had of like how things are supposed to go.
Yeah.
So having a number of DMs go during week 1 and then a number of DMs go during week 2. I guess one of the things that I had initially presented was basically trying to adapt those into some sort of like 3-act structure in a way. And since the end of week 1 is changing, how will that affect the whatever like twist that we have planned between everybody? Just as the person who's picking up with the one shot directly after, because mine's the first one shot of week 2.
Yeah, so now I'm looking at it, I'm getting everything's starting to jog back my memory. So Roland's one shot was the Micah's was the start of the sort of big twist, and then Roland's was like revealing like that was the actual big twist. So right now that is what we would be missing at this moment in time. Now again, as I mentioned before, I can just pick up the slack or whatever for that, yada yada. We already had that conversation, right? But that's how it would kind of be affected. I don't think it'd necessarily be a point of like a 3-act sort of structure. So that'd be 3 weeks of stuff, and then we kind of, I think we'll be perfectly fine without any need for that. But that was basically the thing that was missing.
Gotcha.
All right. So here's what I'll do. I will probably talk with the lore masters. I'll probably get a little bit of a separate meeting, a smaller one. I will lay out the outline of like, hey, this is what the dungeon masters are trying to go for. This is the piece that we're missing. And then I will talk with them specifically, be like, okay, help me fit these pieces into the grand puzzle scheme that we're trying to do. And they will be able to help sort of construct that to make it sort of coherent and make sense and all that stuff. So kind of like a little bit of the best of both worlds in a way. Where the dungeon masters get what they need to sort of be able to run their one-shots as they intended and they wanted without having to really change much of anything. While meanwhile, the lore masters are able to get all the bits of information of the lore that they want out into for everybody to kind of witness. That is utmost importance for at least phase 1. So that is what I will do. So let me write that down, and we'll have to schedule a meeting with the lore masters to do that. Schedule a meeting with lore masters to construct Contributor one shot. Come up with outline of what we need to do. What we need to do to connect one shots. All right, cool. There we go. All right, so that is all I had for that sort of stuff off to the side. With the one-shot information regarding that. So now that that's out of the way, and we know exactly what we're kind of going to do for the time being, let's go on to the next portion of this sort of staff thing. Now, lore masters and video editors, I remember a couple of video editors were mentioning that they were thinking about doing voice-acted lore pieces for the project leading up to it. Now, this can be done pretty much right now for the most part. We have enough lore to do this. We just need to write out the scripts and all of that, all this sort of information or whatever to make it or turn this from an idea to the likes of a reality and an actual sort of thing. So here, if we can have a couple of the video editors and I guess the lore masters as well. If you guys can just come onto the stage, whether you say anything, that's perfectly fine. But for just the time being, if you guys can come up to the stage. Thank you, thank you. Invite to speak. Dungeon masters, you can hop off the stage for the for just this small little thing. We'll pull you back on in just a second. Speak, invite to speak, invite to speak. And there we go. Did I get everybody? Yes, perfect. And then Crow, there you go. All right, cool. So, video editors and lore masters. So, actually, I think correct me if I'm wrong, but Helen, weren't you the idea that came up with the sort of whole voice acted lore thing, or am I completely off?
A little bit. I was thinking of having somebody narrate the lore, and then it just turned it turned into sort of voice acting roles, plural, of people who maybe wanted to voice act maybe a certain character. Like if there was a certain specific moment that we had to get right, we can interpret into a specific way of maybe have someone say a specific line. And of course it wouldn't be necessarily the entire video, but like it would be just those particular lines of someone saying this for this character and this for this character, and then continuing on with what we hear is why blah, yeah.
Yeah. So good to know. So here's what I was thinking that what we can probably do for the whole thing, because I love the idea. So I think we'll probably just need a list of, we'll probably need a list of everyone who's willing to do this. Everyone who's willing to kind of do a little bit of voice acting work and more, whether it's staff members, whether I guess it's, I mean, I don't know how involved you want it to be. I'll leave that to the video editors. Do you want me to sort of make a video on, like, let's say TikTok, or make a couple, I guess, adverts or whatever, asking, hey, if there's any voice actors that want to help a Project Aurora, want to, voice act a little bit of lore, then hey, hit me up, yada yada yada, go from there. Or do you just want to keep it very, very simplistic, pretty fast paced, and just get a couple of people from staff, like probably the dungeon masters or lore masters, who are willing to do it? Would you video editors prefer anything, or nah, not really?
Oh wait, Pixel, did you want to? I see your icon glowing a little bit, but did you want to add something?
First off, excuse me. I don't really have a preference. If the dungeon masters want to do something, or the lore masters want to do something, and they have the availability to do it, then I feel like that is a good idea. But I feel like I don't want them to get swamped with a bunch of stuff. So if it does come down to the point that our DMs and LMs are very busy, we could just outsource as an advert. So having both down as a plan is usually the best course of option when it comes to trying to get hands on something, especially when it comes to things like voice actors and stuff.
Yeah,
just in my experience.
Well, I guess
I was also
no, you go.
I was also going to add also a little bit to that is with communicating with the lore masters, the one big hurdle that I was trying to figure out was just the script. Honestly, that was just the only thing that I was trying to figure out. Other than that, me and Pixel, and just communicating a little bit with the lore masters can figure out, well, not entirely, but like, can source the lore and make like a little short script based on some information for that specific lore. And we actually already have some people who communicated in the VC general who wanted to do some narration.
Okay, perfect. I was going to say, for the lore map or for the script and like how to make it, my idea would be, and again, lore master leads or anybody in general on the staff or who's on the stage, I was probably thinking that the lore masters, if they have the time, they can just set a bit aside and then just make them, because obviously they're the ones out of the entire project that'll have the most well-versed knowledge referring to it. And they will be able to pick and choose, like, hey, what things that they really want to sort of showcase or whatever, as well as, I mean, hey, if someone is voice acting this, they're actually like they're a character in the world that is saying this, lore masters would probably have that best sort of knowledge referring to it, right? So I guess here, let me ask Max and any lore masters in the area here, would you guys be willing or okay to do that? Do you think, like, I don't know, what's the sort of, not environment here, like, not situation, I can't find the right word, but what's the kind of deal? Are you guys, like, swamped with work? Are you guys like, no, it's pretty chill, we have a lot of time free? What's the sort of situation with that?
So, if I may, as it currently stands right now, and fellow lore masters / Max, please correct me if I'm wrong, but we do have a solid start on kind of creating and combining the things that we need for these one-shots. There are several items that still need to be accomplished, so there is work still to be done. However, in terms of this kind of voiceover and that kind of work, I do think that we can probably get that done in tandem. I do know that myself, Elder, I believe Ram from the DM side were all people who volunteered to do this voice work. Helens would have to check me on that.
Yes, let me just check right now really quick.
Just as an aside, I also did volunteer for some of that voice work as well, just because I've got a fair amount of experience with it.
So, actually, I think it might be worth it, unless we're perfectly fine with just the simple, like, hey, I raised my hand, I volunteer as tribute. I guess while Helen's looking that picks, do you think it'd be worth having like a, not really like a big sort of thing, but a small mini application that says, like, that's pretty much saying, hey, I'm interested, here's my Discord tag, yada yada yada, do I have any experience with voice acting? No, yes, boom boom boom, just to keep things organized? Or do you think it's just, nah, we don't need to go into that much detail, it's just, hey, a Discord message, anybody who reacts, I'll add you to the list? What would you guys prefer?
I would definitely make a application just in case the whole, we don't get enough hands, which I'm pretty sure we will get enough hands for it if we do it here strictly with just a community application here in the Discord. But I like having backups, so doing both, I would say, but don't send out the application for like outside help until we get a full sense of everything going on interiorly.
Okay.
Yeah, it was James. It was also Matt and Elderbear. I can't pronounce names. Elderberry.
So James, Matt, and Elderberry, and then we're going to pretty much ask again. So this was actually a question that I had for video editors. How many voice actors did we need? Was there like a specific number? How many were you guys like looking for?
I would not know per se. I have been out sick for a bit. Helen has been taking the reins on this, so
Fine.
That kind of. Oh no, you're fine, Pixel. Please take care of yourself. That purely depends on what you kind of need and what the lore entails. Like say if you have like a meeting, say if you have like a scene that requires a lot of charismatic situations. Like there's this character that's very important, and there's this character that's very important. And like in order to understand this part of this lore, the person listening really needs to know what this character says and what this character says. We would probably need about 3 voice actors or something. And depending on how long the video you want, it could maybe be 3 or 4. And I know that kind of sounds a bit extraneous, but it probably wouldn't take too long depending on how fast the voice lines get to us and our processing goes.
So on that note, I actually did have a little bit of information for it, just like a personal sort of thing or a request, if there wasn't anything. So would you want to start small and then work our way up to doing bigger projects? So like, for example, instead of like a 3 to 4 minute sort of thing, we do just a quick, very, very quick and short to the point, like 30-second to 1 minute sort of video, go from there. And it's like, okay, here's how the process worked with like a 30-second to 1 minute video. It was pretty easy. I got this done in an hour, however long it takes. Probably not an hour, probably like a couple of days, right? But yeah, it took only this long. Okay, now let's work our way up to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then just keep going. Start small and then work our way up to bigger sort of stuff. Would you think that'd be a good way to do it?
That can definitely probably be achievable. It like I said, it just mostly depends on like how we want to interact with the scripts and what is needed, yada yada yada. Like you know us video editors. We just take it and we just go craft.
Yeah, that's definitely how we do it.
So here, I've been writing a couple of notes. So let's do this. Here, for video editors, this can be your task. I'll give it a formal announcement and all that. So let's get another little mini announcement, basically asking who are the voice actors or who among staff is willing to work on this. I'm gonna make a small voice actor application, post it in the Discord. Anybody among staff can apply, all that good stuff. Once that is done, probably give it like only a couple of days or whatever to apply if you want to be a part of it. Then we'll get a list of everyone who is participating. Boom. Lore masters, in the meantime, they can start crafting scripts to help make everything. Now, we're gonna start off small, and I'm gonna do obviously formal written announcements for this soon. But let's make the scripts like something that someone can reasonably do within 30 seconds to 50 seconds. The reason why I say 50 seconds is because you might think something's only 50 seconds, but when you get done recording, turns out it's like 1 minute and 30. And we want to try to edit this down between 30 seconds and 1 minute. Reason why is because within that time frame, that means we can upload stuff to YouTube Shorts, we can upload it to TikTok, Instagram, yada yada yada, right? So let's try to shoot for that. Go ahead, Helen.
Actually, I do have a little bit of something to ask. Like,
sure.
Maybe before we send applications for voice actors, could we just start with the ones that we have? Or I don't know. This is just my personal take, but sometimes maybe sometimes if I don't know if you want like a specific voice for maybe that specific character, or I don't know if you have maybe a preference for that, like having like almost like a character role, if that makes sense. If I'm making any sense there.
No, I know what you mean. We'll focus on that sort of luxury if we ever get that. We don't have to worry about it right now. Yeah, we can start off small with like the 3 that we just have for the time being. Go from there because we already have like 3 more than willing people to do it. And then we'll tackle that stuff first. Now, if you have 3 people, again, I don't know if you necessarily. I'll leave it up to. Should we have a lore master and video editor meeting for that?
I have a question as well.
Go ahead, Druid.
So I was wondering if we should also bring some of the DMs into the fold of this, because I know that the DMs actively help shape the world through their sessions. So I was wondering if they should be involved in the sort of pre-session lore kind of script thing, if you will.
Oh, are you? Let me know if this is what you're getting at. Are you saying like base the lore snippets or voice acted lore around one shot per se? So like, I don't know, if Matt's running a one shot centered around a train, maybe a voice acted thing could be, I don't know, someone that's getting interviewed before they hop onto this train, you know, like something like that.
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
Not that they're based around the one shots, just that the DM should be involved in creating those lore snippets as well, since they are involved in creating the world as we're running it. That's just my thoughts.
Like an extra person to help with
Absolutely.
constructing the scripts.
Yeah.
Another creative lead. That would be pretty nice to have. You mentioned earlier, since I don't need to. The thought just popped in my head, and I didn't need to
go
get
for
it out. But having a meeting between the VE team and the the lore masters, and like Druid said, another mind inside a meeting to have with everybody would make the process a lot smoother, so that going forward we know what we're looking for and we know what to put into excuse me, in video format. And the process will be a lot smoother than having just, like tasks and announcement pages and just emails back and forth. I feel like having a sit down would make it a lot easier in the long run.
Yeah. So one thing on the whole, including the dungeon master sort of thing, I like the idea, but do you think that it would be a case where it would just become too many cooks in the kitchen if we're just trying to make, like, let's say a 30-second script? And there's like, I don't know, for example, 14 people trying to make the one script. You know what I mean?
I feel like if we designate what the section is going to be about, we could have a lore master attached and then a DM that is more closely related to said piece. And then we could have, the meeting between those two people and then you and the VE team. Then we could start crafting up stuff and then go from there. I do get what you mean by too many cooks in the kitchen. I feel like if we just, as I said, try to minimize the amount of
I think
people in said meeting, I feel like that would make it go a little bit smoother. Just go piece by piece if it's like just small marks. But what were you saying, Helen?
I was also just going to add, like, similar how you said, like, too many cooks. That's a reference. Sorry. I also understand what you mean, Sensei. I think what Pixel is also trying to say is that, like, this conversation could also be like another separate meeting, constructing not exactly like everybody gets their hands in it, but it's almost like how do you say, like, everybody at least can put it in similar ways. Like, we are the video editors, but at the same time you guys know everything about Aurora to the extent of the knowledge. So at the same time, we want to know everything there is to know about Aurora. Of course, there's the World Anvil, but like, we want to hear you guys express the creativity and the information that you guys put in, and that could be like a meeting in itself. I think that's what Pixel's trying to get at. And the dungeon masters are also what makes the world, if that makes sense.
I mean, if you guys as video editors teams are down, lore masters are also down for that, as well as DMs, then let's do it. I don't see any reason not to. So yeah, it makes sense to me. So let's write it down and get it set up. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write in the other sort of to-do list. We're gonna schedule a lore master, VE, and DM meeting, if any. Like, for the LM side and DM side, just anybody who wants to sort of get involved with this sort of part of the project, by all means they can do so. We'll go from there. So once we get that scheduled, then we'll talk about all the logistics and more on the script writing, also the conversation between the lore of the world, making sure everything is sort of coherent. Write this down. Writing. Oh, I guess I can pull this up. Script writing, who is participating, all that stuff.
I was also just informed that we have some people experienced in script writing, so if they want to participate. But yeah, another conversation in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am very bad when it comes to trying to make scripts. So, trust me. Ask any of my AV and English teachers.
So I'm gonna write down. I already have like the logistics of kind of what we're shooting for. So to go over quickly, what it would be is 30-second to 1 minute long for just at least this first couple of videos and all that. And we're gonna try to get all of this done from like the setting up the meeting and more, all of that, getting it done, and possibly, depending on how fast things are and depending on the scheduling of this meeting, possibly get everything done within the 3 weeks. Like the first video, as in the first video is done, everything's been voice acted and more. I think scheduling a separate meeting is gonna delay that, but we will shoot for the moon and hope to land on the roof.
Yep.
And also, it would be more or less of just like expressing the ideas. It was even more than just like how to craft, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. All right, so let's try to get that done, and I think we'll try to shoot for 2 videos. I mean, the only reason I say 2 videos rather than 1 is because if they're 30 seconds to 1 minute long, I mean, I would believe that we have a lot of I've seen the lore masters work. We have a lot of creative minds. I believe that we could probably get 30 seconds to 1 minute of a script, and that would take, honestly, just from writing my own videos, that honestly takes like 30 seconds to a minute just to get something down, and then probably 10 minutes to refine to make it something good. So I think we could easily get 2 videos done, maybe even 3, but we're gonna shoot for 2. And if we get more done, then dope. Cool.
Exactly.
All right, so that's all we got for the video editors and lore master side. Thank you guys again. Actually, real quick before we drop you guys down, lore masters, did you have anything to add to all of that? Anything at all?
Most appreciated.
All right, if that's the case, then all right. So here's what you guys can do. Lore Master, you can drop down for only several seconds. I have a quick little announcement, and then we're going to bring you guys back on along with the rest of the Dungeon Masters. Same thing with video editors and more. You can pop off the stage. All right. So this is another sort of thing, another announcement that I wanted to bring to everybody's attention. This was the announcement of trying to restart the community event team. So, TLDR, we're going to reboot the community event team, and I'm going to post an announcement again in the Discord where asking for anybody who would wish to join. Now, essentially, if you don't know, these are individuals who actively throw random events in the Discord, from simple general chat hangouts to entire themed festive events relating to in-universe festivities to even out-of-character festivities like holidays such as Halloween or Valentine's Day. We've done this before in the Discord server, but that was when we had like 200 people in the server, and now over the course of like 3 months we have 750 or something people. It's ridiculous. So hopefully we'll be able to have a huge influx of individuals who would be willing to join in with the likes of those people who help run and construct the community event team, because again, it's a very, very fun process, and anyone, including existing staff members, can join. Whether you're an already or you're an artist, you're a DM, or whatever, anybody can join the staff event team. That being said, I'm going to drop this announcement for it, I believe, tomorrow. Maybe today, later tonight, but probably not. Most likely tomorrow. All right, so That said, also, if you do want to join into the likes of the community event team, it should be on the Project Aurora application. It is the same application that any staff member you already applied to before. It's the same one. You can just reapply and then just select community event team and then go through answering all those questions and more. You can do it right now, but announcement coming out officially later. Alrighty, next up, so we have the oh, another thing, so we will have to elect a community event team lead and more. Raven, I believe you were the event team leader last time. If you want to just join on in, take the reins of that once more, or if you want to defer to give it to somebody else, that will be completely up to you. But we'll talk more about that kind of off stream and all that in general. But next up, here's what we got. We're gonna go over the Dungeon Master and Lore Masters one-shots. Then we're gonna go over the homebrew team and the races if we can. Afterwards, we're gonna go into the art team stuff. Should I just get rid of it, or should I just knock these sort of announcements out first? Actually, I think I'm gonna retcon some stuff. I think I'm gonna knock the other team announcements first, except for the homebrew team. Homebrew team's gonna take the second longest, and it's not the most important compared to the one-shot creation. So here, let's I'm gonna grab actually a couple of we're gonna skip over past the Dungeon Masters and skip over the homebrew. We're gonna come back to that in just a second. Let's tackle the art team and their announcement real quick. So if I could have a couple of the artists, or at least the artist leads, join onto the stage. I think we got Madra, we got Raven. Is Maggie in chat? She is in chat. I'll invite her to speak if she wishes to. Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, there we go. Join.
There we go. Okay, so here's what I got for the art team, and I'm gonna give you guys your formal announcement as leads as usual. But as I mentioned before, artist leads, you will need to start getting the art department ready to basically make a bunch of generic NPC art for the one-shots. If we could have it where we don't have to necessarily use any online or art online or any art through character creators and all that stuff, then that would be amazing. So let's shoot for that. Dungeon Masters, I'm going to need you guys also. Actually, yeah, Dungeon Masters, you can hop onto the stage as well. This will be very, very helpful. If you guys can raise your hand and then get those individuals on stage. But we're gonna need a bunch of generic sort of things, such as, generic human male or generic human female, generic Strataguard member, generic thug member, yada yada yada. All of this sort of things are generic NPC art that everybody can kind of use in their one-shots. It'll be extremely helpful and be able to assist in making the world kind of feel alive, while also being able to have a universal sort of thing to be able to use in the future. So for example, if we have a phase 2 or phase 3 and the project and we go back to Antima, then we can just pull upon the art and we already have it made. We don't need to worry about making more of it unless we just really, really want to. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Oh, hold on. Thank you.
I think if you want kind of that kind of thing, though, we're just gonna need a massive list, really.
Yeah, we're about to actually. I'm trying to grab these guys and throw them onto the stage. A couple of the DMs. We're gonna come up with a quick little brainstorming list, real quick, for 5 minutes at most, so we can get you something. And I'm gonna write all this down, post it for you guys, and you guys can also take notes if you wish to get that going. Did I do it? I think I did it. Invite them to speak. Okay, there we go. So, Dungeon Masters. This is a perfect opportunity and time to be able to pretty much just say, hey, this is kind of what the one-shot I was running. Can we get a couple of generic NPC art for XYZ? For example, my one-shot is going to be based around a festival of the sorts. Sort of celebrating airships and more, and all this sort of stuff with a whole bunch of these sort of elemental aspects sort of running around causing chaos as they usually do. Not literal chaos, but you know what I mean. But sort of interacting with the likes of or random individuals while also showing off the entirety of the world and down below. But meanwhile, while that's sort of happening down below, up above there's going to be a bunch of individuals hijacking an that's besides the point because I don't need necessarily art for that. The main sort of thing that I would need is generic sort of festival goer art. So like, you know, generic festival goer male, generic festival goer female, whether I have like just a simple human and female piece, that's perfectly fine. I don't think we need to get crazy and have like, oh, festival goer dragonborn or festival goer what is it called? High fade. We don't need necessarily do that because it's not super important. But that would be an example of like what I would need. So Dungeon Masters, if you could list out some of like the most important but generic NPC art that you would need, not like specific like, oh, this is the mob boss or whatever that's super specific and they have to look like this way. No, just something that you're going to be using multiple times.
Sure. Okay.
The one
if I
thing
can-
actually I would ask to do maybe is to give them a little bit of a brief in terms of like to get the artist excited about drawing it. Because if you just say it's a random guy, the art because most of the artists are volunteers and they're not getting paid and it's just for fun to do by themselves. If it's just draw a guy, they're going to be a bit like, oh. So give them like something on the one shot going, this is a really like, you know, just to get them a bit excited to draw these NPCs and make the world a bit bigger, you know? Is always extremely helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, like
Alright.
they could be technically generic, but like add something to like flavor it to say like, yeah.
Just the event they're going to.
Yeah.
Literally, like, most people
100%.
Most people are dressed in sparkling rainbows. Some people are dressed in bells. People are doing this. Just something to get them like, oh, that's really cool visuals.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Something to get them excited to draw these people.
Gotcha.
Sure. I'll
Because
Best
right
do
now
best
they're all
I can.
volunteers and no one wants to be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do it, you know?
I already have
And it's just how it
Yeah,
works.
like
No one
that.
wants it to be a passion project, not just, you know.
So yeah, the things that I'll need for my one shot, which just to refresh, my one shot, the first one is basically sort of like a training day thing. You're all new recruits to the Strato Guard, basically being put on your first day, being introduced to the city. So as you're going into the city, of course, I'll need generic Strato Guard, you know, officers, things that are basically like you could be like them one day, you know, if you buck up, you could be like them. So, you know, they're like towering over the, not literally towering of them, obviously, but you know, somebody's just like, I could
People
be
you
like
look up
them.
to.
Yeah, these people you could look up to, or people who are looking down on you, are like, I'm going to overshadow you. Don't think I can do this? I can prove it. I'm not that green. You know, that rookie. Besides that, I would also probably need, you know, people. The most important thing, I'd need like people like living about the city, like people going up and down. Whether you know, people realize like whether or not they're assholes or not, people you want to like make sure nothing bad happens to them, even if it's like small time crime. You're just like you're a Strato God. You want to like help them out. Or they could just be like really irritated. Like they can tell I'm new. They can send some fresh meat, and I got to prove myself to them. Maybe they have a cat. I don't know. You know, just like I've lost my cat. I've literally lost my cat. But yeah, whatever the generic thing. But the exciting thing I think would be needed for a, you know, police Strato Guard kind of thing would be a bad guy doing a runaway. Either like literally running away or like some kind of like vehicle or riding animal or whatever they're doing, because you gotta do a chase. You gotta catch them. So it's just like whatever the mode of transport is, something exciting that makes them having to, you know, all Strato Guards, get him, we gotta chase him down, you know,
Yeah.
that exciting police chase. It'd be
It's
like
good for the players to be like, oh my god, we need to catch this guy.
yeah, we need to catch this guy. I was like, he's like, how's he getting away? Well, he's riding a Velociraptor. Where'd he get a Velociraptor? Not important. He's got something. So just like, there'll be a generic guy in pursuit. Like we are in pursuit of this criminal. You know, whether they're human or not, or male or female, is less important. It's just more, you know, somebody that we're chasing or like a bad guy that we have to like get down. If it's exciting for the artist that, you know, they're fleeing on something or like using a jetpack or however criminals get around, then yeah, by all means. But you know, those are like the
that's really cool.
The essential things I would need for my one shot.
Awesome stuff. And we're gonna have all the DMs basically like make a small little list with a bit of a descriptor, and we're gonna like post this over towards the art team. But that is your stuff.
Let's make sure the lore masters are okay, because I can imagine them like jetpacks. I never agreed on jetpacks, and they're just fuming somewhere in the audience.
Yeah, that is fair. So here, actually, if we want, I got an idea. We can. Do we have it where? So I was already thinking, and I'm gonna mention this a little bit later. I was already thinking of having like each of the dungeon masters. They're gonna have a meeting with or try to schedule a meeting with the lore masters, or like just grab a couple of them, sit them down, basically like really go into depth and detail with like, hey, this is the one shot I was planning on running. Is this okay? Does this make sense? All that stuff, yada yada yada. And then maybe during that time, that's when the DMs can also present their sort of like, hey, I need this sort of generic NPC. This is what I was kind of imagining them wearing. Is this accurate? Does this make sense? Does this work? Lore masters give their input. Once everything's finalized, well, now you have your one-shot idea good to go. You can start planning it. Then you as a DM can submit that idea, that official sort of like, this is what this NPC or generic NPC is going to look like. What do you think that should probably be the plan of action to do?
That sounds good, but I was going to say most of the artist also itself, at least for my part, doesn't actually know about the lore of this world. I was going to say if you could also put like a bit of the lore masters to just teach a bit more to the artists, we can understand more what the DM would like to do too.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I really think there's a lack of right now in the community is knowing actually the whole story, because it's been going on for so long, all these campaigns and all the story itself, that the people who've been here from the beginning are very excited about it. The newcomers are still a bit like, there's so much now to go on World Anvil. People do get excited, they want to read all about it, but getting your foot through the door can be a bit hard sometimes, and it can be quite intimidating. And one idea that maybe, and I said it have as like either TikToks, videos, or just like something that we have as a community event, maybe like once every 2 weeks, once a week, whenever people are free to do it, maybe like a lore master story time, maybe. We're just little masters just go to town, just tell us like thing like, this is what happens in this world, this is what happens here, and they could just literally tell people about this world and get people excited, get the artists excited, get the newcomers excited, get the players excited. And it's kind of like people would do like lore drops or loading screens, or people have like, oh, this is a community thing that happens here, and it paints the picture, makes the world a bit more bigger, more real, really.
Yeah, I think that's kind of helps with going into the whole idea of the. I love the idea. I think that's also is going a little bit into the idea of like the whole video sort of thing of like dropping those down, but also having like yeah, but also just having a couple like random talks and more for doing that would be awesome and perfect. One thing that I do fear
is that we are storytellers. We're here to be like, oh my god, this is such a cool world. Oh, that's a really cool thing that happened with these characters. Oh, that's a really cool, you know.
Yeah.
And if you haven't got a piece of that, it can be hard to, you know, put your heart and soul into it.
One thing that I do fear though is I don't want to overload the lore masters with tasks, because we're already because they already have their own stuff. I think we've given them like 2 or 3 extra additional things already. So adding a 3rd or 4th one, though it's like super useful. Well, hold on. Though it's like super useful, it'd have to be a thing of like, hey, can you guys even manage all of this? You guys are obviously human after all.
Yeah.
I mean, also like we have the World Anvil, so like anybody can kind of look at that and be able to get it or understand exactly what the lore is. So that is also like an important thing for pretty much anybody a part of Project Aurora staff to kind of do. They need to be able to read the lore and see like, hey, this is what this is. Okay, I understand kind of what I'm making. Let me read a little bit outside of what I'm making so I understand the context around it, yada, 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 go from there. Right? I think that's important
for a lot of people who actually, the reason they got into D&D though was experiencing it though, not just buying the book and the player hand guide and reading the player hand guide. It was watching a podcast, or was listening to a story, or was playing it themselves. They need something more interactive than just reading a book kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, I know.
I might be wrong entirely, but it's something that you need to be a bit more like, so it could be it doesn't have to, you're right that it's entirely big ask to put all on the lore masters, but it could even be someone from a few campaigns ago who's set in the Auroraverse, a player being like, this was the adventure my party went on, a DM who loved their first campaign, who wants to like brag about it even more, and not even just brag, but be like, this is the tale of the party that this is the story I sent my party on in campaign 1, and they want to tell people about it. Things like that, just to give people a taste, could be pretty fun and cool.
One thing that I think there might be a little bit of a disconnect is, keep in mind, even though I think you're mixing a little bit of the mini project and like I guess we call it legacy project.
Oh, I definitely am.
Yeah, because there hasn't been a single one-shotter campaign in this universe that we're building. There hasn't been a single one.
Right.
All that stuff, that is from like the campaigns like me, Matt, and Raven have been running for a couple of years and all that sort of stuff. Those are two completely separate sort of things. And I was actually talking to one of the lore masters and one of the other staff members that we need to make we need to make it a little bit more clear in the even just the roles of the Discord and like the order of it, and the things that are in the most focus by the most people should be the things at the top, and they should be the most clear so everybody understands what's going on. We'll need to rename a couple of roles or whatever, which will take a bit of time, but hey, for that clarity, it is worth it. That was just a little side tangent that I noticed from
No,
this.
absolutely, because I'm still trying to wrap my head on what's part of what thing at this point, because there's so much that, like, because that's what's great about it, but it's also that then getting clarity between them.
Yeah.
Because they may think, oh, I'm watching the podcast, I'm watching the live stream now, and they're thinking, oh wait, is this the world we're working on for the mini project? And it's like, no, different things, and it's trying to get that clarification between all of them.
Yeah.
To add on,
especially for new. Sorry.
Do you want to go, or do you want me to go?
Right.
I was gonna add on by saying, hey, to add on to Magpie's mention about heralding past stories. While this particular mini project is a brand new universe and a brand new setting, that we can get a head start on that like right away, and we can we can do recaps of the one shots and tell the grand story of those one shots, and just do it in real time as we're running the one shots.
I see what you mean. Yeah, I think that'd be sick.
Yeah, stuff like that
like
could be really, really fun.
Like a survivor report, like someone who's playing a PC in that thing, where the DM would be say, "Man, we thought it wasn't going to go. I didn't think it was going to go like that day, and then everything exploded." And they're like, "But I can't believe I made it out there." Or didn't? They're using the talk with dead spell, so they didn't make it out.
Hot take. Combine all of them.
That's
we
cool.
can make it. We can make it or if we want to be an organized or often sort of thing, rig it. Let's just make that one of the big things that the community event team does. Organize it, literally just have a sort of date where everybody just sort of jumps in. Hey, the lore masters are going to talk about what happened, or the dungeon masters are going to recap events, yada yada yada. Like everything is just sort of just what's happened in the world, and make sure everybody's up to date and kind of what's going on, Yeah.
It's what I meant by like a story time, like once every like month of the lore masters just go to town, like, oh, this was so cool, this is what happened here. Then they jumped out of the fence, and then it's fun hearing people go nuts about things like that and seeing how excited and how much fun they had. No one ever says like, oh, we wouldn't be in D&D if we didn't like hearing that kind of stuff.
True.
Does anybody have a guitar?
Oh, I know, right?
Oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be just nice for the artists to like know more about the lore itself. If that back when it's going to happen, honestly, would be great, because then everybody can do that. Because honestly, when I was doing like the Deadlands, like concept art, a bit of it, I was a bit confused why it was called the Deadlands, because the thing that I understood, it was a jungle, but a jungle is technically not dead because everything around it is really just full of life. So I was like all confused on that one. So yeah, like stuff like communicating itself, the world for like not only like characters itself, but also the background, like knowing more about that will help a lot to just create more of the story itself.
I think also on top of this, this is just something to add on to it. It's not a replacement. This is just something to add on to it. I think when we're handing out tasks, like from any department, right? I think we should also attach the World Anvil articles to said tasks.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Because a lot of the time, what ends up happening, like it happened the other day, someone was trying to make a homebrew subclass, and they're like, "Hey, so how do the gods work?" I'm like, "It's right there."
Yeah.
So, like having it where it's like, okay, here's your guys' task. Here's the World Anvil article that is related to this. Here's maybe a couple ones that you're going to want to look at as well. And then us as just Project Aurora leads, they're linking these sort of things. So everybody's kind of aware. And then it's just like, hey, if you have any more questions, you can ask me, or you can ask the Lore Master team in the Lore Master questions or request chat. I forgot what it's called. I think it's Lore Master requests for that type of stuff. But yeah, that would be helpful for sure. So
I think if we actually, I didn't even know we had that for the Lore Masters. So I think promoting that, especially with the artists, going, hey, if you have a question like, did this race have horns? What would be in this? Just dumping in the question, then seeing if it gets answered randomly in like a week or two. or whenever a random lore master can answer it, promoting that, because I don't think many artists know we have that chat's even there. And a lot of them just sound their thumbs going like, I don't know what, I have a question but I'm not sure who to ask, would be quite helpful.
I'm thinking of something. It would take time, but it'd be worth it. I'm thinking of like a quick little video guide that I shoot that basically just breaks down how to navigate the Discord. Is like, okay, hey, this is SenseiSuplex, blah 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 blah. Welcome to the Project Aurora. Welcome to Project Aurora, kid. Here's where all the chats are. You go to this one if you want to look for or get a lore master to help you out. And so blah 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 blah. Just something to describe everything. So to answer all the questions in
Honestly,
a quick
yeah,
little,
that
a
could be
minute
really cool.
video format sort of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, that could be incredible. Yes, please. Please.
There's a lot.
There's so
of
many
here.
chats.
Yeah.
Welcome
As long
to
as you do it in that
Project
voice.
Aurora,
You gotta do it in the voice.
Cowboy voice.
All right.
It's gotta be in that
All
voice.
right, kiddos.
Alright, listen up, you sexy shit. I'm gonna teach you something about Project Aurora and all the chats in here.
do it in character as
Do it,
Captain Fable.
Oh my god.
I'm not Captain Fable, I'm Lieutenant Fable. Oh man, I
fuck
like this. Alright, I will write that down for a thing. So, hold on. So Discord storytime, community event, hold on. Project leads need to link articles on World Anvil while giving out tasks. To create clarity. I'll probably have to ask the video editor team. I would love to be able to have enough time to be able to do this by myself, on top of the many other things, to be able to make this video. But if I could have a couple video editors help out making that video, that would turn that into an actual possibility for me to have time to do that. Much appreciated. Video explaining how the Discord works. The Discord works, and how all the chats function. All right, sick. We got a little bit off topic, but Sweeney, Todd,
They were important things that needed to be addressed.
Sweeney, we only have a little bit of time in the meeting because we can only have so many people here for a little bit. So Sweeney, Todd, and Ram, did you have any like NPCs that you, like generic NPCs that you really needed to get done? Or not get done, but like to be presented in your one-shots?
Yes, actually. What I need is just really simple. I need like super lavish, wealthy people. Like the more extravagant and like elegant, the better. So whatever.
You're gonna be
do
fighting for that one.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm
who
sorry,
doesn't love
it's
doing
too
that?
Yeah.
That's all I need on
So
my
I may be a masochist, so that you'd maybe not take my word for that, but
All
Awesome.
right.
Well, that's different.
So that's you, Ram. So just all you got, and then Todd. What about you? No, Todd, beauty. There they are. There they are. They're here.
All right, so my general NPCs, my one shot is dealing with the tunnel systems within Antima. So I'm looking for like classic steampunk, working class steampunk. I mean, they have like soot on their hands. They are used to working with all of the gears, with all of the hard, the hard skills work, the technical stuff. So, go all out in terms of steampunk vibes. These are the people that are keeping the city afloat. They are the ones that are responsible for why everything works. And so there will be some tavern setting, but for the most part, yeah, just classic steampunk vibes, the working class, these work hardened people.
Heck yeah. All right. Is that all the dungeon masters we have with us? Matt, you did not go, did you?
For what in particular?
Your one shot. Is there any like specific NPC, like generic NPCs that you would kind of need?
All right, so Core Brute and I would share in the need for the Stratoguard captain, leader, or whatever.
Just very, very specific stuff. Not like this is the captain, like this is Stratoguard Soldier X or number 22, right? Like stuff like that.
Sure. No, but I'm just saying, starting off, that's the first thing I would need is the Stratoguard captain. The second thing I would need is the bandit leader, which, you know, I imagine there are details I could probably throw out there, but I'll probably need to know what the bandits look like as well. And aside from that, like I have a bunch of, you've seen me, I have had a bunch of NPC tokens that I bring into all of my games that work for just citizens, just people.
Okay.
When you say bandit, do you mean like fantasy bandit? Or do you mean more like gangsters?
I'm referring to train bandits. I'm referring to like wreathed in black with cowboy hats and bandanas on their face.
Actually,
okay, so train robber cowboy bandit style,
train
as opposed
robber
to
cowboy
Weapon Hood.
bandits.
Question.
And then of course the you know, the king of those, the leader of those bandits, probably with a bigger hat. You know.
Hold on.
Seniority is respected by the size of hats.
Because this is important to make sure we got this right. So were the people who were dealing with the who were robbing the train, I believe we said this. Oh, actually I can check the notes. It should be there. Were they the individuals, like the main big bad gang or whatever that's been causing chaos and, you know, destroying a bunch of shit throughout the city? Were they the same people, or is this like a completely separate bandit troop? That's just
I mean, I imagine it's the same group, but I don't reckon they all look the same.
No,
they
of
all
course
have
not.
the same garb and everything. So
okay. So if that's the case, yeah, it works all the same. I was just making sure that we got that. So then, if that was the case, then it would be the same sort of thing of like me or we'd be basically needing the exact same stuff for my one shot. For like those type of individuals. Say it again.
No, I was just wondering. Sorry, continue.
Oh no, I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Oh no, I was speaking out loud about a bandit leader, and I was just pointing out the things. Sorry.
Oh yeah, you're good. So things about them, they probably we'll get to talking, Matt, and make sure that we got all that. But yeah, we'll get to talking about that later. We can save it for another time. Alrighty, and I believe that is all the DMs that are here. So yeah, perfect. Okay, so thank you again, artists and Dungeon Master, being able to provide that bit of information. Here, you guys can jump off to the stage for a bit. Dungeon Masters, you can stay on for the time being. I do not believe we have a music composer here, so I'll have to just carry out that information towards them. Map cartographers. Okay, so here's what we got for map cartographers. So quick little announcement for that, but map cartographers, basically we just need more of them at the end of the day. We have a lacking number in this department and we will need more. I think we dropped down to 6, and it's for some reason, I don't know why, I don't know why it is, but like even with the first sort of phase with the map cartographers, before we got a second sort of wind with them, they just kind of vanish or stop talking and then just completely ghost for whatever reason. So this has happened again. We still have a couple of map cartographers, and thank you so much for being able to stick with it. But that said, I'll probably have to do another video on TikTok looking for some of them. But if anyone in the stream, whether you're a part of staff or not, has experience making your own maps for D&D through map makers like Incarnate or Dungeon Draft or whatever, then please apply. To also answer, we are not looking for traditional artists who draw their D&D world maps. We're not looking for them because we can't use any of that in our games, as they are all online through VTTs. So we're looking for online map makers, or dungeon masters, or anybody who has experience making maps through those map makers. So again,
if I can jump in real quick.
Go for it.
So, as one of the lead cartographers, one of the things that we've really kind of been struggling with is really finding the inspiration to get the maps going. We're finding that, like, especially for the region maps, we're seeing more like a lack of information. So we've been trying to say, just kind of play your own idea to what you want with the world map, with what details we've been finding. And so, here and there, we're trying to put some maps out, but it's been the biggest demoralization, I think, for the overall group is just the lack of, or not so much the lack of details per se, is that a lot of them feel disconnected from the story because we don't really see a lot of the lore. Now, we've gone through, we've read the articles, and there's some of us that are more into it than some of the others, and there's some of them that are just kind of like, well, I don't really know if I want to do this or that. So one of the focuses that I really want to kind of change, especially with our deadline coming up, if you will, is, DMs, if you guys, what I want to do is I want to shift away from making these generic maps that may or may not fit the story. And I want to focus more on what you guys are going to need for your one-shots. So one of the things I would really like to do with the DMs over the next couple weeks is I want to sit down with you guys and maybe either have an interview with all of the cartographers at once, or as many as I can get on, and just have a one-on-one session with the DM versus the cartographers and get an idea of what you guys are looking for in terms of details. Now, we don't want, the biggest thing I can really say that really gets the inspiration going the best so far is when you give us the details, give us the details that we need, and kind of let the mechanics flow whenever you're running your game. So my biggest thing is like a lot of the cartographers are coming to me and say, look, we want the details to understand what you're looking for, but we don't want all of the intricacies. We want a little bit of creative freedom to do what we want, but we want to make sure that what the map that we produce for you is in line with what you want. So, we've got a couple of requests already, and I've been trying to get an idea of, kind of what we want to do with it and maybe make some examples per se. But in the end, one of the things that we really want to try to focus on is getting you guys options. So we don't want to just focus on, say, one person making one map per DM. We want the DMs to come to us and say, look, maybe we want this type of building. It's going to be a battle map, or this is just a general map for us to explore on. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take the information that you give us, and the people who we can get assigned to it, they're all going to make you different maps. So you guys have choices. So let's say, for example, there's a big mansion that we're doing, and we've got 3 different submissions. Now you've got 3 different options, and you can kind of choose from. And now not only are we focused on just what you're looking for, but now we've got other options to provide to others who may end up needing those particular maps. The generic focus that we've had really doesn't seem to be keeping the interest much in terms of the cartographers. I think we're looking for more intricate stuff that relates more to the story than just your traditional battle maps and stuff like that. Because, one of the things that was brought to me was a lot of the cartographers, they can pump out a decent battle map in, say 2 or 3 hours. But without the connection that we're feeling to the story, a lot of times I feel that we're kind of missing the mark, and we're not really getting the details that we necessarily need to really make this world come to life in terms of visual maps, in terms of terrain, and what you guys are really looking for. So and my next focus is we're coming into this next rotation of how we're going to start the maps that we're submitting and whatnot. I'm really going to change the focus strictly towards the DMs and then the regional maps. So I want to be able to get with the lore masters, and I want to get out the details, like, exactly what the terrain is going to look like, because we've got some pretty generic ideas on some of the regional stuff, but the cartographers really want a little bit more information so they can add that little bit more detail to these regional maps, in terms of, like, how many cities are we looking at? How many villages? We're not going to name them. We're not going to put them on the names. We're going to make the map, and we're going to do our best to detail the terrain and the placement of the cities. But we also want to make sure that we're not going overboard, or we're not coming out underwhelming. We don't want to go through and put, say, 4 of the big cities on there and leave out all the little stuff, and then it kind of looks like kind of bland. So the more information that we can get in terms of painting a picture for us as to what the world looks like, the better off we're going to be when it comes to making those maps. And like I said, going back to that rotation, our rotation coming up right now for submitting maps is coming up pretty quick, and I'm gonna start getting with you guys. The main thing I need to know is deadlines. When is your DMs? This is more for you guys. When I need to know when your campaign, when your one shot's going to be going, so I can start organizing the cartographers as to what maps we need to focus on first, and then that way I can go through and we can, like I said, I'm hoping maybe a whole, at least some of the cartographers can come in and join, and we can basically just toss ideas back and forth between the DMs and the cartographers to ensure that the maps that you guys are looking for, you're going to get.
So for all that, so the thing is, that's what's getting ready to happen. The TLDR, that's what's getting ready to happen. The reason why it hasn't happened is because the Dungeon Masters haven't been done with their one-shots to give you that information. We're in the processes of, like, at first what was the case, and the reason why it takes so long for the map cartographers, they are, if this was a video game, sure, they would be the late game individuals. They are making stuff for when people have, like, their one-shot ideas, like finalized, like this is kind of what it's going to be, and now we're hitting up the map cartographers. We're having those conversations of like, hey, this is exactly kind of what we want, but still giving you that little bit of freedom, all of that good stuff. Now granted, considering this is obviously phase 1, we didn't have a basic sort of world outline and all that, right? It was going to take a lot longer. But when we're talking about, let's say phase 2, when we're running like a little bit of campaigns, it's going to be a case and scenario where it's like every week or however often, we're running these sort of one-shots or campaigns. You guys are going to be building maps that are going to be relevant to the world, relevant to the campaigns that are going to be used, and you're going to be having those conversations constantly. It was just, again, more of a case and scenario. We got to actually have the basics first so we can walk, and then we can worry about like, then we can actually get to the point where we can start running. So now at this point, it's more of a case of, and this is the point of this meeting, once this meeting is done, hopefully it should only be a couple of days later, hopefully, that the Dungeon Masters will be like, okay, I got everything that I need to run my one shot, I'm gonna start planning it, And once I start planning it, I'm going to start hitting up artists. I'm be like, hey, this is the specific NPC that I need. This is the like extra details. I also need the generic NPCs, but these are the specific ones that I really, really want and need. And then also, hey, these are the specific maps that I need. I might need to use those generic ones that you guys were using before, just in case, players just go around and about as agents of chaos as they usually are. But these are going to be the ones that I'm 100% going to need. So that focus and that little connect is there. Again, TLDR, we weren't there yet, as we were still working on the beginnings pieces of everything, right? Does that make sense? Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I had a super quick question.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has done anything in terms of like the train. If not, I actually, there's an artist that I am a patron to on Patreon that has some really solid maps and assets. So if it is okay to incorporate that, I could just do that, and then that would be one less thing for the cartographers to require.
I mean, personally, I wouldn't see a reason not to. I know, like, on top of the maps that I'm going to be getting made, the map cartographer hit me up and they're like, hey, I want to make a map for you guys in Project Aurora. I'm like, sick, cool. I'll use it in one of the games, but I'm going to need multiple maps or whatever. So, hey, it works out for me. I don't really see any issues with that. Yeah, I don't see any issues with it. I think, if there was a preference for certain things, this is more of a campaign sort of side. One shots is a little bit different because it's one and done, right? But for campaigns in the future, I'd probably prefer if we have all the map cartographers and make that. The reason why is because like a little small example for like the games I run in a persistent universe. Whenever I'm using like Patreon maps and something happens in the world, something happens in the universe that would affect realistically that map, I can't get those accurate representations anymore because whatever the Patreon person gave me, I'm stuck with it. I don't really have an accurate representation anymore. So in the future, again, maybe stick with map cartographers, but for one-shots and some stuff, yeah, fuck it, it doesn't really matter too much. But I do want to like actually like again make sure that the map cartographers, their stuff is actually being used, and more. And I will say this. If you've seen my DMing styles, I use a lot of maps, so I'm gonna be asking map cartographers. You don't have to worry about there being a lack of maps for you guys to do. I'm gonna be needing a lot. So you'll be fine, trust me. But yeah, that's all I got on that sort of thing. Anybody else got anything to add? Sick. Alrighty, so thank you, map cartographers, and for being able to bring that up. We're gonna, I wrote a couple stuff down to get you guys set up and more. So just hold tight for a little bit. We should probably have them the next couple of days. I'd hope. It depends on the rest of the meeting and how it goes. On being able to get you guys the information that you need to start making those specific maps and more. We'll probably need to, we'll probably need to start setting up those meetings for each dungeon master. I'll probably have I don't know, or is the DM lead? Yes, Kairos, you're still here. Perfect. Do you want it to be like, how do you want to go about setting up those meetings between the dungeon masters and the map cartographers? Do you want to be like DMs set up their availability or map cartographers set up their availability? How do you want to go about it?
I'll get with the cartographers and get an idea of what their availability is, and I'll try to schedule around that with the individual DMs. If I can't get everybody together, all at once, I'm not expecting to have all of my cartographers there, during the meetings and whatnot. But if at least I can get a one-on-one, either with myself or with Admiral Vol, where we can get with the DMs and get the details that we're needing. It may even be one of those things where I just say, hey, cartographers, what are some questions you want from the DMs? And then basically kind of do a Q&A with the individual DMs, all, individually through DMs, or direct messages rather, not to be confusing. But yeah, so I'll get with Admiral Vol and we'll discuss it. I'll get with the other cartographers and get an idea of their availability. And then we'll try to plan around that over the next week, trying to get interviews done so that we can start getting these maps created.
All right, so let's go from there. Alrighty, awesome. So I think that is everything from homebrew music composer team. Yeah, we don't have a music composer team. Yeah, we're good to go. So let's get started with the main big sort of thingy. Being the Dungeon Masters and Lore Masters sort of stuff. So if I can have all of the DMs and all of the Lore Masters hop onto the stage and everybody else, you guys can jump off the stage for the time being. Alright, let me start grabbing people. You can raise your guys' hands and I will pull you onto the stage. Thank you. Let's see that. Back, Discord's freaking out. It's freaking out. Oh god. It's like spazzing out for a second. I don't know what's going on. Leads, you might have to help me out here. Oh, nope, we fixed itself. Alright, cool. Alright, whoops. Sorry, Amos. I hit the invite to speak button as soon as you got invited up. I think that's everybody here, right? No, here, I'll invite Crow and I'll invite Squig so they can join up when they can. And I think that's everybody, right? Sick. Okay, if I miss anybody, just pull them onto the stage. Alrighty, so let's do this. Where is this thing? So let's start us off by recapping the one-shots and making sure everyone's kind of on the same page for all the one-shots and kind of how they will all be. Afterwards, we're going to go and break this down into a little bit of a Q&A, answering any bits of confusion relating to said one-shots, and whether there's a disconnect between the one-shots and the lore masters and the world they've been creating so far, as well as, after that, getting the lore masters involved in everyone's one-shot and having them request the things that need to be added or modified for the one-shots to make sense of the lore. Now remember, basically what it was, or what we did with this process was the lore masters were coming or creating the universe and the world, all that greatness. The dungeon masters in the last meeting, this is the second part of this sort of collaborative feedback phase, is the dungeon masters were going to come up with very, very generic 2-sentence ideas of a basic outline of kind of what they want to do. They're not going to be adding the specifics of like, hey, we're going to be including XYZ aspects, or they're not going to start listing out, hey, we're going to include XYZ member part of the XYZ faction. It was just, this is the basic outline of like the elevator pitch of this is what's going on in the one shot, this is what's happening, right? With everything the lore masters are sort of doing to set the scene and set the stage. Now for the third phase, which is about to happen, now that we have the lore masters here, it's time to sort of see, okay, hey, this thing does, or this thing needs to be fleshed out, or if this was to happen, this would also happen because of XYZ faction or whatever it may be, right? And this is that part. So then we can come to an agreement with everything and everyone, so we can get these one-shots finalized, good to go, and then we can have the other teams start working on stuff, such as the art team working on NPCs, and the map cartographer team working on maps. Make sense, everybody? Or no?
Makes sense to me.
Let's go.
Let's do this. All right, let's recap the one-shots. It's best to probably take them into order. So I know I'm throwing you under the bus again, Core Brute, but hey, you signed up for first week, so hey, it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to just start with Core Brute. Adam's not here, so I'll just read over his one-shot briefly, and we haven't made the edits to his yet, like we did the others, so having the lore masters here will be able to help out with that tremendously. Afterwards, Mike isn't here, but we'll go over their one-shot as well. Same sort of thing. Roland, I'll go over their one-shot, but this is the one that I was mentioning that we're going to heavily modify. I'm going to literally have a meeting, like a separate meeting with the lore masters for this one. Afterwards is going to be Matt for week 2, then Slippery Ram. Afterwards, Talos isn't here, but we'll go over his. After that one, it's going to be Sweeney Todd, then it's mine, and then we'll need to talk with Druid about your campaign as well. I'd assume you probably don't have a one-shot idea just yet, but maybe we can, towards the end, we can come up with maybe a basic
I do
idea.
have ideas.
Oh, beautiful. Perfect. I love you. Oh, man. All right, so let's do this. Core Brute, can you give us like the very, very basic elevator pitch again on what your one-shot is? This is even after like all the sort of additions or revisions. I don't think yours really had any. It was pretty straightforward. But yeah, if you want to give everybody a general idea of what it is.
So, the PCs are new drafts, new recruits to the Strata Guard, and they're getting ready for their first day on the job, where they will interact with the city with fresh eyes, the good, and also the starting inkling of the criminal underbelly, as much as they can as newbies.
That's good. That is good. So, where is this thing? Hold on 1 second, Brute. I need to go down or re-download something and open up another thing. I'm looking basically for the Dungeon Masters one-shot information PDF. Here we go. Perfect. Let me open this up. Yeah, so a couple things that I remember we were saying, Brute, was we're gonna have you, Roland originally, myself, and Slippery Ram being the Dungeon Masters to collaborate with. We were talking about, kind of last time, what type of training does the Strata Guard do to deal with the populace? We also mentioned, like, okay, who are the major officials, as well. Now, I haven't been able to be 100% caught up with this sort of stuff, but what did the Strata Guard, like the fleshing out of it, did it ever get sent to you, or are we still waiting on it?
Nothing was sent to me, but like there is like information about the Strata Guard, like how they're divided up into like 6 different like squadrons and that, like for different parts of the city. Not different parts of the city, but like different duties. But besides that, I haven't been like given more information, like how are they trained? Is it always rookie with experienced guy, or like are they sent in squads? So I don't actually know all those like kinds of details about like how the Strata Guard function.
Sure.
So yeah, there's a lot I'm like I don't really know. Like, is it just like is the city big enough that they have literally like you're in charge of this neighborhood, or is it like it's so small you're basically do a scout around a patrol around the entire city, like yeah, and come off.
So this is a perfect time to be able to ask about that sort of stuff. So basically, as we're going pretty much one by one down the list, you'll be able to ask all the questions to the lore masters if they have the information for it. But you can also have a sort of thing, or again, this is just sort of a brainstorming session of kind of like what you would imagine it to be. So now the lore masters have a general idea of what they're needing to actually come up with and kind of give to you and work with you on. So I guess ask away on the questions that you have. I think the first one was like kind of what type of training they go through to deal with the populace. Lore masters, if you want to add anything or maybe start brainstorming some stuff on what it could be.
Yeah.
Lore masters, silence.
So when it comes to Strato Guard, we do have several things that are already like kind of in creation. Squig will have to talk about this since that's his expertise more than mine, but I do know that he'd already hammered out some solid concepts to start with.
Squig's here. Yeah, Squig's there. There he is.
Alright. Well, what I had initially before when it came with the training is to actually put him more into an actually militaristic boot camp, in a sense, where they're able to learn when it comes to the different aspects they'd be signing up to. Sort of how you would get with an initial training into becoming part of any armed forces. So it's going through that certain amount of training, schooling, while dealing with the training that allows them to be able to figure it out. Of course, near the beginning of it, you sign up for which section you're trying to be, or they scat you out depending on how well your aptitudes are when it comes to different tests.
Okay, what do you mean scat you out?
Sometimes is not in terms of them signing on to the Shadow Guard, but more of during the training. If you show higher aptitude of a different corps, a division within a corps, there would be another one. They'll try to actually bring you into that division.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. I guess. Is there a period of time where once they leave boot camp, they're sent to one of the corps, or is it like they're still like this is the first year where you're undeclared and you're just like out in the street learning stuff, or it's like if you're on the street, that means you're in the street corps, the street detective corps.
Well, that's part of the constable. That's part of one of the corps. If I remember, that's part of the investigation corps.
Is that intelligence or inspectors?
Inspector corps. Intelligence corps is mostly dealing with counterintelligence,
spies,
research and development type of thing.
Okay. So they'd be junior inspectors at that. They'd be like first year inspectors then.
Yeah.
All right.
It's so there'd be like the inspector corps, but there's actually a downtime during it that allows you to be able to get a feel when it comes with more of the layout in order to be able to see what they have. Sort of like a rushed week of apprenticeship type of ordeal.
Okay, rushed week apprenticeship.
Where they more get a quick layout before they're initially done with their training to become official members of the Shadow Guard.
That's useful.
Yeah, so that way they at least get it before they get in there, so that way they don't ask. Well, it's more about an efficiency type of ordeal than it would be with them just be like, oh, you went through all this training, all right, have fun, you're out on your own. It's like, no, if we don't have you effective, then we're all going to suffer. You're gonna follow them, shadow them. They're gonna send you on very small mission, very tiny missions. Fetch a puppy type of ordeal. In order to make sure you at least have an understanding with not only how your corps and your division works, but also when it comes with the big, also comes like how to properly file the claims with it. After which the mission is successful type of ordeal. When it comes to the protocols of it. So that way they're not just flaying about like a bunch of fish in the clouds.
Sure, like medical students, they do rounds in an actual hospital before they become, part of the team.
Exactly.
They become residents.
Exactly.
Okay. I had a question that's based on something I don't know if you guys have changed. In the original version, the Stratoguard, it said everyone was drafted into the Stratoguard. And now it says anyone can sign up to the Stratoguard. So I want to know, is there still a draft that's forcing people, they have to do a term in the Stratoguard, or is it become like an optional thing, or is it like the Rome where it's optional, but you only become a citizen if you do a term in the military?
I was gonna stay with that one because I know you were talking about that. I was gonna say more, considering the way that you had to sign up. It'd be more of an optional type of ordeal with it, and instead of it, because I know you're still having it set up as they're fresh out of it type of thing. But it's more of if you're. I guess you can say it's funny enough because Jody actually posted it. Think of it as a Starship Trooper in a sense, where you're able to get better benefits, and considering you're not initial born citizen when it comes to the city itself, but if you join up with the Shadow Guard, you actually have a better chance of citizenships as well as a lot of other benefits that not even the citizens get type of ordeal. Better bonus, if you will.
Nice. That's what that makes more sense. That works for me. So a lot of people could be from anywhere trying to get a good life. Next thing I wanted to know, what do they do with criminals? Like, is there enough space on the city to have a prison, or is it basically like exile or death, or like do they just drop you off?
Colonies. See, you also have to remember as well is that with the city itself, very limited amount of resources. And I actually wrote the vehicles when it comes with it, dropships. What it is that when you're a criminal, and especially one that they really just said, all right, they're too much of a hassle to actually keep locked up, they'll put a bunch of them in order to be able to have them as prison colonists, dropping them off at like specific like sections that have high amount of resources, lumber, metals, things along there that allow them to work.
Okay.
Type of ordeal, because you already know is that hell, the surface has already been essentially been taken over by the Fae. So if it's the best of both worlds, it's on one hand you're getting more of the resources back when it comes with it while using free labor. On the other hand, if they're criminals, they die. That's what you're thinking when it comes with the higher ups.
Enough. Did they like assign anyone from like the Stratoguard to watch these criminals?
Yes. They'll normally have those within the constable, more within the constable. I just need to pull up for a second. But it should be pull up from the constable division.
There's only support, infantry, aerial, intelligence, inspectors, and financial.
Yeah. It's each corps has divisions that work with it.
Oh, okay. The world annual is a little hard to read because it's all one giant paragraph.
Yeah. But it's it should be pulling it up here. Oh, sorry, want to work with it. Why don't you want to work with me? No. There we go. I need to stroke that out. Thank you for that. But it's within the infantry corps, sure, there is the constable corps as well as the Slayer corps. The Slayer corps would be down there as well to help come with the killing of any of the monsters or any type of problems to come with it. The constable to make sure that the prisoners stay in line, if you will.
And the Slayer corps is the equivalent of the Survey corps from Attack on Titans. Sure, they do the dangerous jobs outside the city.
Yeah, pretty much.
Got it. Fun. Yeah. have we established anyone's got those little grappling hooks from Attack on Titan? Is that a thing? Can that be a thing?
I would love for it to be a thing, but I don't know if we actually said it was. I don't think it is though. Like canon yet.
I don't think as an actual weaponry, but more of, hey, you have an artificer that wants to be ballsy and give it to anybody in the Slayer Corps. Have fun.
Sure. Yeah, that goes on to my next question. Like, how, when you're in the Inspector Corps, constables going up and down the city, what is the primary mode of transportation that they get around? I don't think would they have squad carts? Do they have riding beasts? Is everyone expected to do parkour?
Well, it's more of, I have been writing this as well. It's a particular riding beast. I thought it'd be a little bit more interesting to have giant lizards, where they're
Always
actually
fun.
able to hold on in case any type of turbulent happens. Horses are more of the echelon because they're used more as pets. But it's more of they're able to use carts that are pulled by the giant lizards. I think I called them Fromekos at the time being. But it's more of they're being pulled. Carts are being pulled by them. People use them as riding mounts for the time being. Just so it's easier to be able to actually move out of the city, especially when it comes with the verticality of it. Makes it easier. But there are a lot of public transportations as well, such as that of when it comes with Matt's game I made, which was the Elo motor, which is essentially their version of a train, powered by lightning and fire elementals. One full Lebron on this.
Nice, I respect it.
Did you ever post that up on World?
Yes.
Well, I know it's just the make of the train, but did you ever I didn't see it posted, but then the last time I checked World Anvil was a while ago.
Yeah, it should still have that article. It should have that article up in vehicles. Check.
Sweet.
All right. I will say you probably got 2 more minutes, Brute, to answer the super most pressing question, so we can get everybody's.
Sure. What's it called? What's the big? Is there just one big crime group, one big mafia? Is it a bunch of small mafia families? I just want to know is there a lot of protection money being done, or is this something I should be asking the other DMs?
I think this is gonna fall under a little kind of the other teams, but mainly James was working with that. We can kind of hold. I don't know if we want to hold off on that conversation or if we want to do it now. For the one shots more relevant to it. I don't know what you guys want. What do you guys want to do with that?
I mean, I can give kind of a basic overview of my viewpoint on what the gang's situation looks like and kind of what the underground looks like.
Yeah, let's do that.
At the start of the campaign would be good.
Yeah. So basically, I'm kind of assuming that Antima is an extremely large city, something akin to, let's say, not necessarily like a New York or an LA, but more of just like a Dallas or a Portland, something like that. So in my mind, there should be a fair amount of gangs and quote-unquote criminal organizations that operate within the city. A lot of the quote-unquote gangs that I feel like the Strata Guard would be dealing with on a daily basis is probably going to be your local gangs that are just trying to get extortion money, that sort of thing. I've got a list of a couple of different generic gangs that I've come up with that could fit in those roles. But as far as who the main quote-unquote antagonist would be, I figure there's at least one major crime family that kind of, and I think we kind of talked about this a little bit, Sensei, was that they would basically be effectively a sleeper cell for the big bad type stuff.
So this is also for clarity. This would be the BBEG gang. This would be the individuals who, and I believe, which one shot is it? I think it's Ram's one shot. Yeah, in Ram's one shot, these would be the individuals who are trying to do that whole assassination sort of thing. For Matt's one shot, this would be the people who are taking over the sort of train, as well as for Roland's one shot, they'd be the quest giver, as well as for my one shot, these are the people straight up raiding the entire festival that's going on. So this is the big people, or the big gang.
Sure. Okay. I might have to get that list from you, James, of the minor gangs, because that sounds pretty good. I don't think I'll need this the kingpin character or like the big gang. I think I'll just need like small gangs.
Okay.
But I'll deal that for this one shot anyway. What else do I need? I need to know.
Real quick question. Whenever I give you those gangs, how much of a descriptor do you want? Right now, I'm kind of keeping it to 2 sentences or less as far as kind of the overall description. Does that work?
That's all I need to know. Like, oh, they're all this race, or like, oh, they act in this, they dress in this way, or just like, so if you look at them, like, it's that guy, and I don't need the full history of why they were formed, and they're based on an ancient legacy of demon hunters and all. I just need to know.
All right. So maybe like a sentence or two about who the gangs are, what they specialize in, and then like a 1 sentence of a descriptor of what your average soldier looks like.
I should also say on this, post all this stuff on the World Anvil and post like articles for it so everybody can see it. Don't I want to try to. This is the problem with the the Legacy project, where it was just like DMs for information being sent. So then a lot of people are out of the loop. Post this stuff everywhere as much as you possibly can, so everybody's on the or in the know for it.
I second that.
Good idea. So final question before we go away. The thing is, I need to know what is the general public opinion of the Stratagod. Are they like, wow, our boys in blue, it's fantastic, or it's just like people do not trust Stratagod? Are they perceived as like corrupt, excessively violent, because if you say anything wrong, you're going down into a colony and getting eaten by a fae? Like, I need what's the general perception? Of new recruits come down, and people are like, oh, that's great, have some bread, it's nice to talk to you, come to the dance, or it's like, get the fuck away, and spitting on them. Like, I need to know what the vibe is in like most of the city, like the general vibe. I mean, of course, it could be exceptions to the rule and extreme, but just like, what's the general perception of the Stratagod?
I kind of had it more of depending on the division, because it's more of like, it's kind of like because more of like most people are like, oh, it's the constable division. Of course, all right, let's see how this goes. Or they see like, oh, sweet, it's the agricultural division. Awesome, yes, perfect, all that. And then they have the counterintelligence division. They're like, oh no,
secret police. Okay, so what do they think about the inspectors division, or like, is that the same as the constable? I don't know.
No, the constable division is essentially like your beat cop. On the ground, they're the ones that essentially they're the meter maids. You know, it's the one you see, you want to see them all around doing patrols, all that. Yeah. I was gonna say the inspector corps is more of you get yourself more of your high-end detectives, closer to that of like the FBI, various other crime-related divisions.
Okay. I feel I'm very confused, so I feel like I'm gonna have to like talk to you after this to figure out what's going on, because it seems like the constables are not part of the inspector division. So I need to speak to you a little bit at length after this meeting to just figure out what the heck's going on, so we can get it cleared up on the word anvil as well. But yeah, thanks for your help. And I think I've taken up way too much of the time.
You're good. The good thing is the Stratagard is such a big portion of a lot of other people's one-shots, so it helps out. Especially like even for the one-shots that they don't necessarily have them mentioned in their names, knowing how they kind of act and function will dictate kind of how gangs and groups sort of function, as well as people who are doing not so friendly things in the underground of the city, and how they would kind of, move about that, right? But still very, very important.
Yeah, because like in my mind, in FBI and that kind of stuff would be intelligence, because it's counterintelligence, secret police, it's all that kind of stuff. But then it was like, oh no, inspectors are like the FBI. And I'm just like, wait, but the constables aren't part of that? Because in my mind, constables become detectives if we go by American police standards. So I'm just like, so I got very confused about like, what are these actual recruits doing?
Yeah.
What are these guys? Yeah. So I just need to know that figure out where my PCs are, because I've also see new recruits doing police training day kind of things, and I just need to know what their things are.
So
do they gather in the alleyway after certain weekends and brawl it out because they're just frustrated with each other, or
Yeah. Also, I want to note that I'm not. Whenever I'm like sort of talking, I'm not. Whenever I'm talking or whatever, I'm not like trying to like cut anybody off. I'm just trying to keep everything moving because I have stuff to do like within an hour or two. So I only have a limited amount of time I can sort of keep hosting the meeting. So that's what I'm trying to like rush to keep everything going. So just a little disclaimer and all that. So next up, so a little bit of another disclaimer. These one-shots, none of the, or for the rest of week one, like the other three, none of the dungeon masters are here. So this is going to be more of like a little bit of telephone kind of deal, or just reading what they have. But they're not necessarily here to explain or elaborate further. Keep that in mind. So don't be like yelling at the dungeon masters like, hey, what about this? What's going on with this? Well, we can give you like what we know about it, but we can't give you the nitty-gritty details because the DM isn't here, right? So with that disclaimer out of the way, we have Adam's one-shots, which was, if I can pull it up, it was, and this is just was posted a couple weeks ago. It's called A Curse Upon Our Land.
Do you mind if I chime in for a bit?
Sure thing. What's up, Todd?
I'd have to go within like 30 minutes. Can I get mine out of the way?
Yeah, that's fine. We'll be skipping a decent bit, but yeah, let's just try to at least get all the information that we can. So, Sweetie Todd, if you wanna, this is week way past in the week 2, kind of like before the big old finale. If you wanna quickly describe what your one shot was roughly about.
Yeah, so it is hired help. It is a classic dungeon crawl with a boss battle at the end and a good old plot twist. It is basically the adventurers are going inside the tunnels of Antima because there is reports of some kind of beast or monster in there, and it's killing the workers, the tunnel workers, the mechanics, and they are hired by the city to go in and kill this monster. They go into the tunnels, which is then some sort of, the tunnels are the dungeon, and inside there is going to be different puzzles and things that they're going to have to solve. And at the very end, they're going to find the lair that the monster has made inside the tunnels, fight the monster, which at the very end is going to be revealed to actually just be a very toxic gas leak, and that they have been fighting this entire time. It's been causing hallucinations, and the actual tunnel layout is completely different than what they were going through this entire time. And so everything is going to be revealed as, oh, it was actually just a gas leak that was causing hallucinations, and there wasn't a beast, and problem solved. But a lot of the mechanics died because this was a toxic gas. And at the end, they will gain the favor of Killian Flamehide, an NPC, and I thought that it'd be really. I thought it, for the quest item, they receive some keys to the tunnels. If they want some, that could be a later item to be used for quick access throughout the city. Gain access to the tunnels, and that would cut some travel time. And that is it. Just good old dungeon crawl, boss battle, and a plot twist at the end.
Actually, a question for myself, just so I have clarity. So when you mean by tunnels, you mean like the kind of interior undercity of Antima, and then what specific parts, in the sense of like, if you're gonna give me an example of what the tunnels will look like, because like Antima obviously is a floating city in the sky. It's not just some random how you say, just something that we're used to, where it's like, oh, we go into a mine shaft, right? Like, oh, tunnels, I understand what that means. But what does this mean in the case of Antima?
Antima, this is the inner working. So when I say tunnels, it's the maintenance underway. It's where these people, it's the thing that keeps the Antima afloat. It's, that's where the workers go to, I don't know, redirect certain gases or air currents, or I don't know what electricity fits into this setting, but it's the maintenance underbelly.
Are you thinking kind of like in Empire Strikes Back, like basically in Cloud City, whenever Luke and Vader are fighting, where they kind of go into the service tunnels and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Didn't mean to cut in there, sorry.
No, you're good. That was good clarification.
All right, so that case, Todd, what questions, if you had any, for the likes of the Lore Master and vice versa on like, for this one shot, for like clarification, so everybody's on the same page?
That's what I kind of like about mine. I'm not finding that I'm really needing a lot of clarification or contingencies. Really, the only thing that I want to make sure is that whatever content, is inside the service tunnels, and that is consistent with the world, with the city that is being built, and the technology and all that. And that's pretty much the nuts and bolts of it, to say the least. So I don't really have questions on my end. If anyone has questions for me, I can answer them.
Anything from Lore Masters at all?
So and this might just be my own ignorance on what other Lore Master teams are working on. Do we have a system in place of how the city is operated that tunnels incorporate, or that incorporate tunnels into it?
I didn't write that one. I don't think I haven't written that one up yet.
Actually, you know anything?
I haven't seen anything about it. No.
I thought it was like, hold on, let me make sure, because I'm pretty sure maybe not like the specifics and like super invested details or whatever, but I'm pretty sure it's just literally the underworld or the underground of Antima, like literally everything underground or not on the exact surface. That's what they're kind of referring to in general. And there's just a small portion of it, so I don't know if there's like I gotta make sure. Undercity Station, not Undercity Station. Whereas I'm trying to pull up the World Anvil right now. World Lore, please, settlements, City of Antima. Thank you. Hold on, guys. Sorry about this. Place of interest.
So I think that, and while you're looking up that, Sensei, I think if we can figure out what the way that those tunnels are incorporated into the city, then I think that's going to be a really good starting point to try and figure out like what type of bads would be in there and kind of what would live there, and whether or not it's just like where effectively just only maintenance staff are, or stuff like that, or if it's one of those, this is where the people who can't afford to live on, like up on buildings and on the streets and such like that, then they live down here. So there's a whole level of stuff that they have to worry about with the downtrodden.
Yeah, so I found what I was referring to, and I think this is what Sweeney Todd is referring to, like when it comes to like the locations and stuff for their place. So under the category of the Undercity, there are many articles. There's the Generator District, the Industrial District, the Underbelly, and the Hazard Zones. I would assume, and again, Todd, jump in, correct me if I'm wrong, they're referring to like they would be exploring like pieces of this, like maybe even the Generator District, probably the Hazard Zones would probably be a big sort of thing. Maybe even parts of the Underbelly, whatever it may be, but this is what they're referring to when it comes to tunnels, quote unquote.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And it's not going to be I'm not trying to map out a whole giant scale of the city. It's just going to be a very localized point. It's not going to take up much space. It's just going to be a few maps. It's going to be some dungeon, and they're going to have to work their way through it and then get to the end. And so it's not I'm not planning anything big scale here. This was just my first go for a one shot.
Yeah. Okay. So does that make sense for all the Lore Masters?
Yes. Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. I guess Todd, did you have a specific preference? Because I don't know. I would assume the Undercity is like pretty massive when you take all of it together. Did you have a specific portion of the Undercity that you were going to be running this in? Like, was it going to be specifically in the hazard zones or whatever,
I imagine this. I've been trying to check that off my to-do list to look at that World Anvil and see all the different districts, but my vision is that it would be in some kind of working class district. You know, it's not it's not in a higher class sort of thing. It's where, you know, everyone in this neighborhood, in this district, you know, they all have the working class sort of, you know, they're all part of the working class, and that's just where it's centralized.
So
I think maybe the generator district might be the best option as far as that's concerned. That sounds like the most industrialized area.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
Okay.
So we'll mark that down. Generator district. Yeah. So I mean, lore masters, Todd, is there any other questions that you have for this, or for this one shot? Because if not, then basically, once I get, or like in like a day or two, I'm going, if there isn't any things that needs to be worked on, I'm going to give Sweeney Todd the, hey, here's the thumbs up, full send, start working on your one shot sort of thing. So if there's anything at all that you might have questions on, then now is the time to sort of bring them up. Okie dokie. Alrighty, so with that set up, let's run it back upwards towards kind of the top. Let's get a chronological order, so then we can explain like the one-shot series more to the lore masters. So going back again, we started off with Core Brute, the Strataguard sort of training day, and more. Next up, we had Adam. Again, Adam is not here to be able to discuss their one-shot, but it is known as, or their one-shot is called A Curse Upon Our Land. The party were adventurers from Antima diving into the land below, perhaps by a gang or a group, or a party of natives of land below, stumble upon twisted druids conducting a ritual. The one-shot would deal with the foreshadowing of this ritual, and upon encountering the druids and the party witnessing magical essence releasing to Antima, flavor-wise, they could be flavored in fey creatures soaring to the skies, or elements firing off, or divine lights. The party, whether they try to put a stop to the ritual by delaying it, or whether the ritual is complete, the druids would end up killing the party. Also, Adam would drop another note saying, I wouldn't put usually put a big full stop on something like this, but I think it sets the tone that whoever these druids are, whatever power they hold, is not only mysterious, but powerful. Perhaps even an out-of-body experience where their body shifts and morphs into husk and control of the druids. To link this in with Micah, I think me running it for natives of the land below, so Micah's one-shot could explore Ground Zero and stumble upon the field of blood that has been left from the end of my one-shot. So I had a couple things for this. I'll probably need to talk to Adam. But before I get into those sort of thoughts, did anybody have anything or immediate mentions that they wanted to bring up?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Go ahead, because I have a ton for this. You go first.
Righto. So I think with Adam's and Micah's kind of one-shots, this brought up the artifact and ruins that were mainly involved in theirs. And so I was just going to say that we worked on fleshing out a little bit of that area, the ruins and the artifact in question. So I do have information about that.
Okay. So one thing that I wasn't entirely sure about, I believe, I could have swore last meeting that we were saying, I'm like 99% sure that we were saying Micah's one shot was going to be going to the Deadlands, and not like down below Antima. That's what I thought it was. I could be completely wrong. It sucks that they're not here to be able to explain it. Or I don't know if it was like a sort of, it can be either or sort of scenario. But I believe the thing was we weren't going to focus on any of the down below sort of areas in Antima yet, and that was just going to be another thing for the future. Is anybody able to sort of recall if that's the case or not?
So with the Deadlands, I'm not entirely sure if that was the case or not. I don't think that we were going to put a huge focus on an area below the city, but I do think that he had the idea of having an expedition down somewhere beneath the city where the artifact was found, or a piece of it, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have information on that one.
I remember why. Because the reason was because the druids or whatever, they were just the first contact of the Fae. Like, the Fae just basically mind control, did some tricks onto the druids in the first place. They were the one, or they created the artifact and gave the druids each a pieces of the artifact and more. And then they told them to, hey, go separate this and put this across the entire city. And the reason why they wouldn't put it on the ground, because who cares about the ground? They care about the city because that's what they're trying to take over, right? So hence why they'd be putting stuff in the Deadlands, they'd be putting stuff on the undercity districts, everywhere that they possibly can. And this is how the sort of initial, like, this is how the initial sort of distribution of the pieces of this giant artifact we're gonna get started. Now, I guess it could be, I guess this still works where, hold on, make sure. I guess this could
to clarify
still...
real quick. Sorry.
You're good.
I misunderstood what you were saying, so that's my bad. I was talking about the origin of the artifact, not where they were going to distribute it.
Yeah, so the origin of the artifact was, like, it was made by the Fae in general, and then it was, this was, I don't believe we were saying, we're gonna have a one-shot. I was talking about the creation of it, so maybe that's, maybe now that I'm thinking about it or explaining it and talking about it, I think this is starting to make more sense. Maybe Adam's one-shot is more of the creation of said artifact, and then, Micah's one-shot was going to actually distribute it or take the artifact to the city and all that. And then that's when chaos is starting to break or starting to go down and happen, and that's when things start, or the artifact gets distributed. I think that's what they were going for, and that's what they were explaining.
Right, yeah, because we had hammered out in Adam's one shot where they were like it's created and everything. We'd hammered out that it was created in the Hungering Groves. Elder helped on that one.
Okay, okay, this is actually making a lot more sense to me now. And again, that's why I'm saying, like, Dungeon Master, if you ever, like, have clarity or whatever for it, just feel free to jump on in and correct me. Okay, so if that's the case, then, based off of the one shot, you said you guys have a bunch of information on the Hungering Groves. Again, make sure to post all this stuff in the World Anvil, because we won't really know it exists until... Okay, yeah, like, even when you post it on the World Anvil, post it into the Discord, because...
Will do.
Yeah, I think a huge sort of thing is nobody will know it exists until it's posted in the Discord.
Yep, I got you. It's in the Byram description, and I'll be sure to relink that.
Yeah, and that just pretty much goes for anything that happens or has been made. So did you guys, like, Lore Master, did you have anything for when it came to the ritual, or you guys pretty much got all that stuff done?
So with that, and everyone else, please correct me if I'm wrong. I do not think that I have all of the information, though that was my subject, so I do now have some of the information. As to creation, I do not think that we had anything hammered out yet. But as to what the artifact was, we had that it could be a flower of several pieces that, like, petals could come off of it, and that would allow it to be broken into several pieces and distributed as it will. Besides that, and besides its own effects, I do not think we had anything past that that I know of.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't think like, any of the DMs, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think anybody, it really mattered what the artifact looked like, and I like that idea myself anyways, so. Any DMs have a preference for that, or we're good to go? I love the silence, the silent confirmations. Oh my goodness. All right, I will take that as a yes then. If that is the case, then here, I want to make sure, I want Adam, I'll probably send him an announcement. I want Adam to basically get a meeting with a couple lore masters, make sure everything's good. And then once he, like, gives a thumbs up, then I will trust in you guys that everything was good to go, so he can start working on his one-shot officially. Let me mark that down. Adam needs to talk to silence do be loud. Adam needs to talk to LMs about one-shot. sure things are good to go. Then, if it is, he can submit his one shot. All right, cool. I'll look at that later. So next up, we had Micah's one shot that we can quickly go over. There's a lot smaller. Basically, it's saying, or even the fate refused to tread after winning a bet for the job. Actually, let me go grab the more accurate one. There we go. Michael's one was, yeah, after winning a bet for the job, various guilds decide to take on various jobs, and the party's guild is tasked to explore ruins that is devoid of the Fae. They celebrate it at the hall, travel via craft, discover something they shouldn't have, and the players bring back the first MacGuffin that will eventually start spreading spores and corrupting the guild and the guild hall. So pretty much they would bring back the first, like in this case, petal that would start spreading out spores and corrupting the guild and the guild hall.
Yes.
Going to explore the ruins. I'm not entirely sure what the ruins are. I don't know if that's the Hungering Groves down below
That's
as well.
the Hungering Groves.
It is? Okay, cool. Perfect. So, I mean, if that's the case, I think the only question would be which guild is bringing this back? Is this the Strataguard? Is this something else? I think once that's sort of set up, I don't have any questions for it. Would anybody, Lore Master or Dungeon Master wise, have a question about it? About that little thing.
It would be worth noting that I'd want Micah to sign off on this, as he's not really here to like give his 2 cents in. So whatever I say, I would want to make sure that he was also aware of and agreed with.
Yeah. Confirm. It's the Hungering Groves. And then pick which guild it'd be, and then afterwards sign off with the Lore Masters. All right, cool. Next up is Roland's, and his originally was this. We changed it a little bit, but let me see if I can pull it up. So Roland's was originally you were hired by a wealthy politician for their unique skill set or set of skills, and the party gets selected by the first people to explore a newly discovered ruin that is suspected to contain the mighty MacGuffin. Nature is fully taken over once the major city entirely, and it is a suicide mission that leads to a discovery of something more important, valuable than the mighty MacGuffin. When they return with this information, they are told they are not just loose ends that need to be tied up, or they are told that they are now just loose ends that needs to be tied up. Now we end up changing this significantly, where it was instead of a wealthy politician, we changed it to the big bad evil guy gang that is hiring them instead. That's rising up slowly through the city. And instead of discovering a new ruin, the party is going to be going to the guild hall in Micah's one shot, the one shot I had just previously mentioned. It's still a suicide mission, but it's more of an entire portion of the city is kind of evacuated and walled off for the party to go into and deal with. So I'd imagine the Strataguard are probably heavily sort of like, hey, you guys can't be here, yada yada, you can't come in, blah 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 blah. But maybe obviously giving a pass to the adventurers so that the actual one shot takes place. Boom, boom, boom. Head honcho wants them to bring back the entire MacGuffin, or at least bring back samples. Either or is fine. So either bringing back the entire flower or bringing back the piece of the flower. And then same sort of thing happens. They're considered loose ends. Yada yada yada. Same sort of thing. Scenario happens. Not too relevant or important for the lore masters of this talk. Is there anything that the lore masters needed answered, or dungeon masters needed answered for this? Or are we all good once again? I would like at least an okay to make sure you guys are alive. Please, anything, something.
Yeah, from the basement, I think we're all okay. Could do with a bit more water down here, but we're good.
Thank you, God. All right. That being said, let's go. Anything from the lore masters? You guys good?
I'd say nothing at the time. Max?
Yep, everything's good.
All right. I'm just trying to give you guys the opportunity to sort of make sure everybody understands the one shot on the lore master side, and also if they need to air out their sort of things for it, then now was the time to kind of do so. All right. Going past Roland's, we go over towards Matt's one shot. So if you want to give a basic sort of overview of that real quick.
The general overview of the one shot that I am running is the party are basically all of the characters are individuals that work in the Crown's Guard that are responsible for like special operations, and they're being given a first-hand briefing of the situation, and the situation is the BBEG bandits. That's not what they're called, but that's,
that is their official
BBEG
name.
bandits have
BBEGB.
have taken over the main line, extending from I guess one spot in Antima to another. It could be, for instance, the head of the dragon towards the city, or vice versa. That they've taken over the train, and they are transporting a MacGuffin of some sort. Now, here's where I'll get to the nitty-gritty details later. So what ends up happening is there is this literal airdrop to the caboose of the train, and car by car, the players will start fighting from the back of the train to the front of the train. Different trains will have mobs. One or two of them may have a trap. There will be hostages that they'll have to avoid or save. There will be maybe one instance where somebody is a trader or shop owner, and so provides a quick purchase opportunity before they continue on. By the time they reach the front of the train, they are directly confronting the elite units and the chief or the leader of this particular group. They fight the leader, but the thing is that as they are fighting the bandits, they realize that the bandits are not normal. They have been, I guess you could use the term, corrupted in some way. That is sort of this is sort of a reveal. It's sort of revealing what their true nature and true intents are. When they reach the front of the train and overcome the leader, the leader has this moment where near death, coughing up blood, laughing, and basically doing that whole monologue of "you have no idea what's coming, do you?" And then basically forces the train to derail, and that's where it ends.
You got it. So
there's there are a bunch of gaps there that need filling. The first one and most important one is, what is the MacGuffin? Because we talk a lot about the MacGuffin, and like it's parts of a whole of something. What is the intent of it? What is what's the goal? I've left my one shot blank on those details because it's sort of dependent upon what other people are deciding is the whatever that MacGuffin is. What is its purpose? How does it does it have individual parts? Is this an essential part? Where did the part come from? Why is it on the train? All of those details. All of those details have been blanks. So the first and biggest thing, if nothing else, is to figure out what that is to have this one shot make sense.
So you're basically saying like, hey, I need writing of this down, so like I can refer to this. Okay, this is all that I need to know. Let me incorporate it into my one shot, right?
Right. And to be clear, I'm not creating some new thing. This, like, my understanding is that there already exists something that is being gathered, that is being put together, and then used by the end of the one-shot series. So I'm not creating a whole new thing. I'm depending upon what the decision is on what that is, what its purpose is, where it came from. If that's not known, then I cannot complete or run my one shot.
Yeah. So, so going with that, I think it's more so we have everything, like we have the details for it. We just need to actually like write it down and then have it in a place where people can look at it and view it. Like, hey, this is the, I mean, kind of similar to a magic item, but obviously a more, you know, detailed information about it, like on a World Anvil article. But something that just has all the information written down for it. So, Druid and everybody's working on the Hungering Grove. Did you have any information about that when it comes to the ritual process? Any details on the specifics of the? I was just curious.
Right. So, I'm actually pulling up the World Anvil page right now, just so that I'm not speaking for any creation that hasn't been created. Right now, it doesn't look like we have anything specifically on a ritual-like process. We have the area in which it is to be done, and we have the artifact, which is to be a result. But we do not have anything of the process. So, with that in mind, I'd definitely like to get together with a couple of lore masters to work on that and bring in some of the DMs too, so that we can have their specific input.
I mean,
not necessarily right now, but in general.
Well, I mean, what type of information did you need regarding it? Because that is a huge sort of thing, and I imagine, like, hey, well, if it doesn't get done, then a lot of people won't be able to ever make their one-shots. Like, Matt was saying.
No, yeah. I just want to make sure that we don't like make the ritual all by ourselves and then hand it to the DMs like, hey, this is what you have to do.
I think it's pretty straightforward on like what the dungeon masters kind of want, what we were talking about and agreed with. It was just, hey, this is a random device, or this is just a simple device. Now it has a, you know, like an appearance. Basically, it is a sort of fey-like flower that has multiple petals and multiple pieces. Each piece is capable of creating spores in the area that can corrupt the lands and corrupt the people around in the said spores, turning them into plants, maybe even other fey, just causing chaos and more, right? While that is the case, simply whenever all pieces are brought together, like, sure, you want to call it this 7 magic Dragon Balls, whatever you want to do, then it will be able to create a huge amount of sort of spores and, you know, clouds to be able to infect and cause all the chaos that I mentioned before, just on a bigger scale. The reason why it's going to be used like this is because when we get into the whole thing with my one shot, basically any means of flight, whether it be airships, blimps, all that sort of craziness, they will play a huge part in spreading all those spores to across a major portion of Antima, but the individuals are trying to spread it all to all of Antima, but obviously that won't happen, right? That's basically the basic thing, and that's pretty much all the details that Dungeon Masters have regarding it. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think there's anything else to it. That's all we kind of need, as long as it sort of falls under those categories or falls under those things.
Gotcha. Real quick, and this isn't exactly related, but I didn't want it to be forgotten about within the trot of our call. I do believe that Finn in the audience had something to address or a concern, and I just wanted to make sure it was heard.
Is this relating to the topic, or is this something else?
Is it related to the topic?
Not the one that we're currently talking about. I just didn't like it can be talked about later, but I didn't want it to be forgotten about.
Yeah, if it's not on the topic, then I don't really. We only have like 20 minutes or whatever, so I want to get everything that's super important. Like, hey, we can't move forward past this.
Okay.
And all that, right? Topic is lore creation here. Let's hold off into that if we have like a bit of time after the fact, but let's get everybody's like sort of one shots. And all that, like the things that they actually need to be able to say, hey, I can actually work on my other stuff, and they can get all the other stuff towards the other art departments in the first place, and then we'll go into that. All right. So that said, let us go into. Oh wait, Matt, was there anything else besides the sort of MacGuffin that you needed answered?
We'll see. So the MacGuffin, and all of the relevancy behind it. Why do the bandits have it? What is it for? What does it contribute to the end result? What value is it that would cause the Strataguard to want to pursue it?
I can pretty much answer all that.
Stuff like that, yeah. Aside from that, you know, the Strataguard stuff was already brought up previously. If that's filled out, then I'll be able to adopt that.
Yep.
I presume I presume I can pretty much, you know, I can build out a lot of the rest for the one shot. But I want to be clear, the bandits, I think it was discussed and was mentioned that the bandits are not normal.
Yeah.
They are not just bandits at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They are fused with whatever the magic or ritual or spore or whatever it is. So as long as that is clear upon what it is, how it actually affects people, and what the stat difference is, like what the mechanical difference is, then I'm fine there.
Okay. I think that should just be a thing that's requested to the lore masters for that specifically. So for the other stuff, the reason why the bandits have it, what a Strataguard will probably need dealing with it. The reason why the bandits have it, this is again the entire plot of the one-shot series. It's basically the Fae are infecting the likes of the first druid cultist individual, or not cultist, but you know what I mean. Sort of fanatics, individuals. They're making the ritual to summon or at least craft or make or grab, however it is, to obtain the artifact or the MacGuffin that's going to be used for the entire one shot. Now, as the druids are sort of placing these things across the entire city of Antima, after the events of Micah and Roland's one shot has taken place, then, run that back. After the events of Micah and Adam's one shot have taken place, now the MacGuffin or whatever has been placed across the entire city. Said gang wants the MacGuffin because they are also, or they end up getting infected by the fumes as well, and they also want to take said MacGuffins and then decide to combine them all together and then basically spread them across using the blimps, the airships, to spread it across all of Antima instead of just smaller portions. They view that it would be more effective to spread it through the likes of blimps everywhere rather than just placing it at certain portions and then forgetting about it. This is basically due to the gang's idea after they've already been corrupted by the Fae, and hence why all the gangs or whatever, or in your one shot, they're trying to grab said MacGuffin or utilize it to send it to another portion of the city where it can be all gathered together, where maybe the main base or main gang's base is located. All that sort of stuff. The Strataguard, what they have in, reason why they want to stop it. Well, hey, the entire city is going crazy and getting infected and corrupted by the Fae. It's pretty straightforward. Like, stop that. That's not good. Stop that. Does that make sense?
It does.
All right, boom. Okay, let's go to the next sort of thing. Slippery Ram, if you want to go and describe your one shot real quick.
I'll be real short and simple with you. All it is a bunch of fancy people, rich and all that, who, because of the current events going on, causing a lot of stress and terror going on in the city, they decided that they want to put together a party in order to just relax themselves and try to enjoy what environment there is. The party would be playing either like guards, entertainment, or whatever I believe the party would be best suited in, and it would have all lead to a mystery of somebody threatening to assassinate or kidnap, whichever one fits better, the host of the party. This party is also doubling as an auction, where a shard of said magical MacGuffin is like the key item that is being auctioned out to the people.
All right. That being said, is there any questions that you had for the lore or the or for the other fellow dungeon masters, or anything on your end that you needed answered or clarified before you're good to go?
The only general idea that I kind of need is like understanding of like the wealthy people of Antima, but other than that, like everything else should be fine.
Any sort of questions from the likes of the lore masters or anything like that?
So a question that I think might be prudent would be, when you imagine this this one shot in your head, what kind of rich, like what do these rich people look like? What is it? What kind of rich people are we talking? Are we talking like the rich people in kind of more dictatorial countries that like they're the oligarchs, or is it more of just like there is a significant class difference, or is it kind of one of those just like they're rich people but they're not necessarily the haves and have-nots, there's just the people who have a little bit more money than everyone else?
So I would kind of see it as like the top of the capitalist charts, you know, like they're the ones that are running Wall Street, they're running the big businesses, they're the ones who like don't technically have any power, but because they have the money, they're the ones paying.
They hold all the power.
They're the one that holds the power. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And in your mind, is this a extremely corrupt class of people, or do they have the best intentions for society at heart, or just themselves?
I would say there's a healthy mixture of both in the party. I would say that the main host would probably be one who has genuine intentions to make Antima a good place.
Okay, so kind of a this is a altruistic party host, and there are potentially basically shitty people in the that could potentially be there, because let's just be honest, really rich people are always pretty shitty.
Facts.
That was the only question I had.
I don't have a question per se, but a clarification and add-on. So I know that Elder and Death Gauge were working on this for you, Ram, and I know that they put together some things as kind of a brainstorming thing, and then they were going to throw you into the mix to see what you had in mind. I think it's still in process, but I do have the document, and I can share it with you after the meeting.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Gotcha.
All right. So, is there anything else that anybody had questions on?
I'm good on my end.
Alrighty, and then we had Talus's one shot, which it's pretty straightforward and very similar to Sweeney Todd's one shot, where it's basically the party is escaping through a bit of tunnels and pathway through the generator district from a gang in the underbelly. They discover something very strange near the heart of the Titan that people haven't been aware of, and it was pretty much very similar to Sweeney Todd's in the sense of they're exploring the likes of the Undercity. They are discovering more and more of those sort of poisonous monsters or poisonous gases and more that are even maybe affecting the likes of the city down below or the populace. Same thing with the, or even I believe it was a, I could be wrong with this, and this is again a sort of downfall of not having everybody here to give me the exact clarification, but I believe it was possibly another of the MacGuffin is located here. I'd have to clarify that with Talus if I can get a hold of them, but yeah, it's again, it's a very, very straightforward sort of thing. So anything that Sweeney Todd would have questions for, Talus would have questions for pretty much as well. So I don't think there's much to add with that. I just need more clarification from Talus when I get a hold of him, if I can. All right, past that, there is my one shot. So this one is this thing. So the players of the up-and-coming Big Bad Evil Guy gang is rising in notoriety and are looking to truly solidify themselves as a force of nature. Controlled by the Fae, they need one more person on their side, a powerful political figure owning a monopoly on aerial transportation devices. Whoever is responsible for transporting people through the air to different places, whether that be to the ground, whether that be to the city and back, or just even aerial transportation throughout the entire city. Whoever that person is, that is the powerful political figure this gang needs to or sort of deal with. It is said that they'll attend a grand annual festival held in Antima, and it's up to the players to stealth past or brute force their way through all armed forces of the Strataguard, from henchmen to actual authorities. Upon sneaking into his private float or location this figure is watching from, he'll need a bit of convincing on why he'll never underestimate this gang ever again, as well as the Fae. And that is pretty much the one shot. There's a little bit of another thing. So the party is going to be responsible for activating said Fae device in Major Blimp to spread across the city. Upon doing so, during the festival, all hell breaks loose. The festival goes up in flames, civilians are killed by dozens and hundreds of Fae creatures, along with the wrath of nature itself. The city is left, or this portion of the city is left in an apocalyptic state, as the players watch this portion of the city burn in front of their eyes. The entire city, I think there's always been a little bit of a misconception. The entire city of Antima is not blowing up or being destroyed. It's like a small portion of it, like a town, or wherever said place in Antima where this festival is being held. That is about to be like patient zero, or not even patient zero. This is like, do not go here. This is considered the dark zone. Do not step foot here, you will die immediately. We're keeping anybody or any civilians away or far, far away from this place, and we are sending multiple people to kind of deal with this as soon as possible. And that would be where the one shot is left for eventually. The future for other, or for the DM wrapping everything up, will show off either A, how they dealt with it, or B, the aftermath after they dealt with it. That's basically the one shot. The questions that I had, well, I guess here, let's take any questions from any of the lore masters or dungeon masters they had regarding that before I ask my questions.
I'm good on my end.
I can't think of anything at the moment.
I'm good.
Nothing specific, but I may have questions later.
Okie dokie. Some question that I had was, okay, so it's I was imagining kind of like a float festival in D&D, because who doesn't love a good festival, right? But if we're doing floats and all that stuff, and if we're having a festival, what would the festival exactly be? What would there be to celebrate? What would be the theming of it be, you know? I think, I could be wrong, but I have to recheck it. I could have swore there was literally a festival in the lore or whatever that they always do. Am I crazy?
There is.
There is.
Several.
Perfect. I remember I picked this out specifically because of that. I just can't think of the name immediately off the top of my head. I think... what were a couple of the festivals again? If you can name them off, or give the basic ideas of them. Druid or Max?
Max would know more than me on that one.
Go for it, Max.
I know there was a festival celebrating like the ascent of the city. That's like the biggest one I know off the top of my head that I would probably make the most sense to me, at least for your one shot.
Yeah, a sense of the city, having or having a sort of float or a giant blimp or whatever for the main sort of big thing or attraction. They're like, oh, look how you know, we're able to have flight, yada yada yada, right?
You'll have to check me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to remember the name. I think it's like like Ascension Day or something.
Ascension Day. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yeah, that was what we had what we called it initially, was the Ascension Day.
Okay, so Ascension Day. And then where exactly, 'cause it's been a second since I've checked the lore, I think 2 weeks or so. Ascension Day, is there like a specific article for that?
There should be, yes. Within the Dwarves race, it does talk about Ascension Day and several things about it.
Okay.
Typically the holidays and things worth mentioning would be within the separate races columns.
Okay, perfect. I might need a World Anvil article that's just takes all of that information and places it in one, takes it into one place, if possible.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So that gathers all info and places it into that, or into one single place. Okay, so yeah, so I'd assume it in the Ascension Day article, it has like, hey, what is there to celebrate? Obviously being the ascension of the city. Does it have the theming of the festival?
So yes and no. Nothing is specifically solidified as to like possible themes. Dwarves do have certain ways of celebrating their holidays. Most of this includes like what James, Max, and I had kind of come up with was that like they celebrate their own ability to like tinker and everything. So like for their holidays that consist with their own race, then they show that off kind of to each other and to everyone else. But with Ascension Day, I don't know if there's anything specific. So you other guys would have to back me up on that.
Anything specific for Ascension Day, unless I'm missing something.
Gotcha.
All right, so I probably ask, even though it's gonna be like in the background is very, very important because this is how the players are going to be sort of navigating that. So like, yeah, that's gonna dictate a lot in my one shot. So I'll probably, besides just the gangs and leaders or the criminal underground information I'll also need that before I can get started with some stuff. I can maybe write like an outline, but that'll play a huge part into it.
So I think that the because I've been looking through the notes that I had on the festivals and all that, I think the idea that we kind of had overall for the Ascension Day was that everybody celebrates it differently within their own community, but it is a day that is set aside for everyone to have that celebration of the ascension of the city. I don't know that we had actually put together anything that was like a city-wide, like this is what the city sponsors as the festival.
So yeah, I think here's what I'm gonna do on my end. I'm going to make a whole sort of a request sort of thing and get involved with that. Or basically being able to flesh this out and sort of answer any of the questions that I might have for that, because we're running out of time. And I can get involved with that, similar with the gangs and more. So we can talk about that, but I don't have much to add to it. I'm more of a sort of willing to go with the flow on whatever you guys have. I'm willing to adjust and maneuver everything as it needs to be done. So besides that, what else did I need? I think that was really it. Because I think, did we ever, yeah, Slippery Ram, did we ever get the... No, never mind. I just need the other big sort of thing is I need the individual who is responsible for, like, I'll need a specific NPC who's responsible for flight in the city. But without that individual, whoever that's going to be, me and Slippery Ram straight up can't run our one shots. Once we get that person, I think we'll be pretty much good to go. But yeah, without them, because I think they're correct me if I'm wrong, Ram, they're the person who's like the party is protecting in the first place, right?
Yeah. the goal was that would be like the host the entire time. So
yeah, so we need that person very soon. So I will write that down. Need NPC who runs the air-related stuff. Let's see. All right, cool. And yeah, that's all I got from my end that I can sort of think of. Any other last bit of questions for that sort of whole thing?
Well, there, actually, no, never mind.
Alright, things we're waiting for. Okay, yeah, so I think we're good to go. So if that's the case, I was able to list out a couple of the things. There are some individuals who can basically get started, or who will be able to get started on planning their one shot soon, within probably the next couple of days. There's some individuals who are a lot of them are just waiting for confirmation. It's very rare or very few that are actually waiting for lore to be created, now that we're good to go. So the one shot should be starting to get underway, at least production wise. And then while that's sort of happening, more and more of the lore is going to be fleshed out, helping give that bit of guidance. And I'm sure it's going to be a case and scenario where Dungeon Master is going to be like, hey, I didn't think about this during this meeting. What is, or how does this work? Or what would be the correct sort of thing for this? Yada, yada. Whether it be a faction or civilization or the culture or the environment, all that good stuff, right? Okay. We don't have time for the homebrew stuff as we are running out of time. But real quick, because a couple individuals are mentioning this, I don't want this to turn into a whole big sort of discussion because I'm already going over time anyways. But if we can like agree to cut this off at like 1:15, that would be perfect. Finn, you were mentioning that you want to ask something on this, or come onto the stage and ask something real quick. Yeah, again, let's just agree to cut this off at 1:15, no more, because I don't want I know this easily can be a discussion that can turn to like an hour long sort of thing. All right, so invite to speak. Bam, bam, bam. Also, in the meantime, all of the Dungeon Masters and Lore Masters, do want to thank you guys again. You guys can hop off of this stage for the time being. I guess it's, I guess only any project leads that want to stay onto the stage. Probably Lore Master leads or individuals Lore Masters who want to stay onto the stage, they can. But that'd be probably just about it. Alright, let's do this. So, what's up, Phineas, or Phineas?
So, from what I'm seeing from group chats and different people's concerns is, yeah, there's a lack of communication, but solving that isn't by steamrolling ahead.
Lack of communication aware, so I can make sure to get
spearheading with the one-shots is a smart idea. Instead, we should be building up the foundation of the lore and making everything feel conjoined, because that's the whole thing of this project, is to make an interactive world.
Hold on. I was saying lack of communication aware, so I can make sure to pinpoint exactly.
So there'll be lack of communication and understanding between the lore masters and the dungeon masters. There's also lack of communication with the artists, especially. Like, we don't know that much of the lore to create art off of, and some of the lore people might not get everything in words that they want. So us artists would be able to help give the lore masters images to go off of or to show to other people, and we'll have a better understanding of the lore. So what I was thinking, I think what some of the people were thinking might be a good idea, is to have voice chats and just group calls where we're working actively on stuff between the lore masters and the artists to truly flesh out the world, to make it feel grounded and to make everything feel a lot more connected throughout the one shots. Because yeah, that's the whole thing with the project, if I remember right, it was supposed to be all of the one-shots are kind of in some ways affecting another. If they're too spread out, then that's never going to happen. And if they're so spread out, how are we going to make lore that feels conjoined? Because if we have it too spread out and we focus on, okay, lore for this person, lore for that person, nothing is going to be, conjoined. It's going to feel separate. It's going to feel like this part of the world has no effect on this part of the world, and the history is nothing. It's only present day. That is my concern.
So for a couple, I'll try to keep it simple and short and take over. So for the lack of communications between the lore masters and dungeon masters, we're gonna tackle everything one by one. So for the lack of communication between the lore masters and dungeon masters, one shot wise, from what I was understanding, this meeting, there didn't seem to be many questions regarding any of this stuff, and anything that it was kind of brought up and kind of answered. Now, there is a lack of communication when it comes to knowing which articles are where, or things like work being done and where that is located. For example, I need to know where XYZ thing is. It might be done in secret or DMs or another thread, I don't know. And it might even get put on the World Anvil, but I might not know that it was ever put on the World Anvil to know it existed. That's what I'd probably say from the lore masters and dungeon masters side. I don't. If there's any more DMs, you can let me know. Besides that, but
it's not mainly only those two. It's
Well, no, I know. I'm knocking everything out. I'm about to go to the artist in a second. I'm talking about from dungeon masters and lore masters sort of side, because that was one thing that Finn mentioned.
No, I understand that, but it's not only that, because this is a group project. Everybody should be together in some way. I understand making individual, divided stuff, so the work can actually go faster. But it's just that when you do that, sometimes some parts doesn't go well together with the other thing, the project that is going, etc. It's just we are making this parts with a lot of different minds doing it and trying to merge it, and like Finn said, it doesn't seem like a quite good idea. So I think it is a good idea, even though I know lore masters and DMs supposed to talk more, everybody the cartographers, the artists, everybody should be actually together in one thing and communicate this better, because doing divided kind of fucks up everything, because everybody doesn't have the full information, or they just get parts of it, and everybody gets just confused most about it. And I understand the word anvil is there, and that everybody can get there and actually read it and understand it, but it's so much better communicated in DCs when calls. I know people are busy, and this is of course just voluntary, nobody's actually getting paid for it, but if we actually want to make this project good, I think it's a good idea to just try to have more communication. Doesn't have to specifically a day, but at random, somebody can just do a hash at some of the staff members, say hey, I'm working on this and I would like some work, help with this, etc. And then just do that at days and see, because since we have a lot of artists and a lot of other people in different parts of this project, so anybody can join, and then at the end of it, I think we should have I don't know if a chat or something to just explain what people have worked on in one set of group, and just show what everybody has worked on, because the fact that it's just divided, and it's a good idea, but everybody should know exactly what it's actually happening, because
So for all that stuff, and I don't mean to cut you off, I'm just trying to make sure I can get everything, because all of that stuff was kind of mentioned earlier with Maggie when they were mentioning stuff earlier. So as I was saying, and I was just again focused, what I was saying was focusing on lore masters and dungeon masters. I was getting ready to go into lore masters and artists, like you were about to say. So that's why I was asking, hey, dungeon masters, was there anything for you guys before I go into this? So for lore masters and artists, I agree with that. Again, that's what we were saying literally earlier, and it having voice calls and chats or whatever, where again, lore masters can talk with artists and everybody can sort of get on the same page and more, where we can have those conversations so they can describe the lore, so it can be a little bit more of clarity between all those sort of things. That's what I already have written down from the notes and all that sort of stuff. We already got that good to go.
You keep just putting like 2 and 2. Like, for example, you say lore masters and DMs or lore masters and artists. I'll say like literally have just the whole people.
I'm talking, when I'm saying that, I'm meaning like just having open chats for everybody to sort of jump into, not just like, oh, this is exclusive to lore masters and artists. You can't be anybody. If you're another freaking department, you can't be here. It's just open chats or whatever for everybody.
Okay, I see. Yeah.
I think one thing is we do need to prioritize whether we want to have one-shots accompanied by the world or a world accompanied by one-shots.
We already
Because
did.
if so, it's the difference between creating lore first and then the one-shots, or creating one-shots and then creating a world around that to accompany it.
We already did. That was the first meeting. So it was basically that was the exact first meeting when we had second meeting, first and kind of second meeting that we had, where it was basically the question of like, hey, do we want to just make the one shots or whatever and then base all the lore around it, or do we want to just make the lore first and then make all the one shots around it? We're doing the thing of, hey, the lore masters are making the world, we're making the outlines of the one shots, and then we're connecting all said one shots to the lore and then stringing a kind of a narrative along together. That's why all the one shots are basically connected and affecting one another. So for example, hold on, where is it? So that's why, for example, Corbert's one shot is directly affecting everybody else's one shots relating to the Strata Guard. That's why Adam's one shot is directly affecting Micah's, and why Micah's affecting Roland's, and why Roland's is affecting Matt's, and so on and so forth. Every single one shot is affecting one another. It's not just separate stories that are just stringing along, so it's not really a history or a chain of events. They're all being connected. And that's like basically what the Dungeon Masters have been pretty much doing the entire time, to make sure that it doesn't feel that way where like before in Legacy Project Aurora, where it's like, oh, everybody's kind of doing their own thing and nothing kind of really matters at the end of the day, because everybody's sort of doing their whole separate thing.
Okay, sorry about that.
You're good. And I mean, it's good to sort of provide clarity for that, especially if anybody else feels that way, so then we can be like, hey, this is what we're intending, this is how it is, and all that sort of stuff. I guess the last thing. So it's not like we're pushing on with the one shots. We, as Dungeon Masters, we have enough. That's why we started even creating the one shots in the first place. We have enough to the point where we can start making the outlines of one shots and all that.
Okay. I think some of the lore masters were a bit confused on how much power they had from the sounds of it. So in that case, how much power do lore masters have with the DMs, or are the DMs the final say?
I'll say that one more time. Sorry.
So would lore masters be able to affect or be able to slightly twist the Dungeon Master's stories to make it bear fit with the lore? Like, how much power do they have? Or is it the Dungeon Masters themselves who have the final say over the what, when, where?
Well, I mean, if I'm understanding this right, I would hope that what the Dungeon Masters did and what the players actually did would matter and actually affect the world, and it wouldn't be like a thing of like...
No, I mean in creating the one-shots. So we're currently creating the one-shots, but so far there's a storyline, yes, and there's, okay, you're going here and there, but how much power would the lore master have to affect the creation of the one-shots?
Oh, I see. I think I see what you mean. You're asking basically like... not necessarily the extreme of this, but saying like, hey, how much could the lore masters basically create a one-shot idea, hand it to the dungeon master, they run it. That's the extreme. That's the extreme, but like more of like, hey, let's make this one-shot idea together, yada yada. This is kind of how it's gonna be. This is what we came up with.
So people like artists might be able to help with that as well, just in that to capture everyone's palette, so to speak.
So at the end of the day, the reason why we have it the way we do is because, sure, some things, you know, it's great to have a lot of people's input, but if it gets to the point where there's too many cooks in the kitchen and it turns out to the point where the dungeon masters are running stuff they don't even want to run, well, then that sucks and kind of defeats the purpose. That's why we have it where the dungeon masters bring up the generic basic outline or idea that they want to actually run. So example, Matt wants to run a train heist. I want to run originally like a bank robbery or like a sort of festival invasion. We came up with the basic ideas, and then we present like, hey, this is kind of what we want to run. Is this feasible? Is this possible? Hey, lore masters, can you give us the context and all that stuff to it? All right, but it is 1:17, so we already went over the 2-minute mark.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sorry about that.
you're good. I gotta go run Secrets in the Sands. So I'll probably Ducky's gonna yell at me. But I'll probably like try to take a quick 20-minute bathroom break. Gotta go get food and eat, and all that sort of stuff. So here, I'm gonna post all of these sort of announcements onto the Project Aurora leads and all that. In maybe tonight, probably not. Most likely tomorrow, as I mentioned with all the announcements earlier today, with the community event team and all that stuff. But all of that in the meeting recap, I'll have to write all that up and get that set up again by myself tomorrow or something like that. I will try to get it to you guys when I can.
Okay.
All right. That being said, thank you guys for everybody who was able to attend the meeting and more. Thank you guys for everyone who was able to watch said meeting or join the likes in the chats on Twitch or YouTube, or even the likes of Discord. Thank you guys again. I'm gonna end stream for a little bit, and I'm going to set everything up for the 10 minutes of stream setup and all that, and then I'm going to try to get everything set up for the session in just a bit. So, that said, meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you guys again. I will talk to you guys all later. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Let me turn this.